Chapter 15:12. The specially infected person, pus fester, self-detonated, and the death signal spread out caused a large number of zombies to flood into the warehouse area. Individuals stained with acid bile would be regarded as the murderer of pus. The bald zombie was at the center of the explosion. When it was hit by a strong impact, its whole body was splashed with acid, and it was swallowed by the tide of zombies in less than 10 seconds. What's the situation? The two assassins hiding in the dark were also shocked by the sudden turn of events. Just when they were slightly stunned, two groups of green living bodies were thrown at them at high speed. Two more pus zombies with tentacles stuck in them appeared to be in an extremely uncontrollable state. They didn't give the two killers any chance to escape. Squeak, the tentacles wriggled, and the pus exploded before it landed on the ground. In the thick smoke of the dark green explosion, the flying dagger master barely escaped. The black cloak covering his whole body had a certain degree of acid resistance, but because the explosion was too close, part of the cloak was blown up, and some of the skin was eroded and marked. 4 zombies with red eyes had locked onto him. Among them, there was also a muscular black man wearing a salesman's uniform. As for the other mercenary Bailey, he wasn't so lucky. He had experienced a fierce battle with the bald zombie in advance, and when he rushed to the warehouse, he had consumed a lot of physical strength. Moreover, his thigh was cut by the flying dagger, and the side effects of the previous injection were also increasing. In the face of the sudden flying pus zombie, he couldn't even take any protective measures. At the moment of the explosion, he seemed to recall the moment when he accompanied his teammates in life and death. His body was hit by the explosion and was torn into 4 pieces on the spot. The scattered body parts were also eroded by the acid bile. The Desert Eagle that he had been holding in his hand was completely dismantled in the form of data with the death of the individual. Killer allowance. For main battle area Fatty Sam was using his unique fat blood to expel the corrosive liquid from his body. Sizzle. White smoke rose. The fat in his body was consumed crazily during this process, and when the acid was expelled, Sam returned to his normal body and even printed a clearly visible muscle outline. However, the severed right arm and the chainsaw were still on the ground. Facing the zombies that were constantly encircling him, Sam could only think of one way to survive: pick up the severed arm and use the medicine to regenerate it. Then he could forcefully kill his way out of this game and give up the reward. However, just as Sam took a step forward, his arm, however, was picked up by another person and fused with it through some kind of special blood effect. Sam stared at the mysterious figure in front of him. Through the comparison in his memory, he immediately remembered the last 2 assassins to arrive at the entrance of the mall before the game started. They were also the team that he thought was the least threatening. The young man's slightly immature voice sounded. "The chainsaw is not bad, let me borrow it. Sally, tie this guy to a safe place high enough. Don't let him get killed by zombies before the battle is over." "Alright." As Sam was still suffering from the injuries caused by the explosion and his broken arm, he couldn't react in time and was kicked in the neck. He fainted on the spot. Then, he was dragged by a slender figure to the upper level of the warehouse and hung in the air with a rope. The purpose of keeping this person alive was very simple. Once this person died, according to the rules of the game, his belongings would disappear. According to Han Dong's previous observation of the battle, he had already put a part of his chances of winning on the chainsaw. This was the only weapon that could cause substantial damage to the bald zombie so far. At the same time, Han Dong also held another trump card that could surprise him. He glanced at the dead mercenaries and the restrained knife-throwing man in the depths of the warehouse. He raised his head and looked at the fat Sam who was hanging in the air. He looked down and stared at the final target that was swallowed by the zombie frenzy. After making sure that everything was under control, Han Dong began to perform the ultimate evolution that his body could achieve. 1. The right arm of the caregiver was no longer used as a weapon. Instead, it was inserted into the upper part of the shoulder blade with the help of its semi-living characteristic. It was used as a third hand. Combined with the assimilation characteristics of the caregiver's arm, it was controlled by Count himself. In addition to regular attacks, it could also be completely transformed into a blood dog and be separated to cooperate in the battle. 2. For Sam's arm and the chainsaw that he had just picked up, Han Dong used a very clever method of transfer. Removing the bones and unnecessary tissues in Sam's arm, he transformed the arm into a fat bag and tied it to the engine as an energy supply device for the chainsaw. The remaining fat in the arm was enough to continue to use the chainsaw for 10 minutes. Moreover, Han Dong also found a very interesting thing. Viku's flesh device. This chainsaw relied on fat and blood as an energy source. The fat was taken from Sam's broken arm. Han Dong tried to inject the blood mixed with the characteristics of the underworld blood from his right arm into it. Boom! Boom! As the engine was pulled. On the madly rotating saw blade, a blood structure similar to that of a canine's teeth was condensed. This structure made the cutting ability even better. At this moment, Han Dong, wearing a steel mask and with 3 arms, suddenly turned into a chainsaw maniac. The right time, the right place, and the right people, victory or defeat depends on this. Whoosh! In the position submerged by the zombie tide, an indestructible arm suddenly stretched out and tore apart several zombies piled on the body. Some kind of bone marrow was flowing between the protruding back at high speed. The fully open mouth could crush the zombie's skull in one bite. The special existence that crawled out of the zombie pile, except for the traces of corrosion left on the surface of the body, was not harmed at all. Several zombies that tried to bite him caused their teeth to break instead. Just as the special target was about to break away from the zombie tide, a swift figure approached from the side. In terms of speed, Sally was higher than Han Dong, so she was given an important task in advance. It was also the key to Han Dong's implementation of this plan. Whoosh! Sally accurately inserted a syringe filled with special blood into the target's neck. It was the part that was cut by the fat Sam before. So fast. Before Sally had time to pull out the syringe, a strong and powerful palm came from the side. Crack! Sally's left arm, which she used to block, was smashed to pieces, and her whole body flew out. She flipped 3 times in the air, and barely stood still with her balance. Feeling the foreign body mixed into his body, the enraged bald zombie chased after her at the fastest speed. Just as he was about to get close to Sally, his body suddenly stopped. Crazy proliferation. The part of the neck where the syringe was inserted was constantly gushing out large pieces of proliferating tissue. The armor structure that covered his whole body was gradually replaced by this unrestricted and completely disorderly proliferating tissue. This was the corresponding effect of the G virus. If he continued to wait, he might be able to perfectly accept the G virus and turn into a more terrifying species. But Han Dong would not give him such an opportunity. Before he could control the G virus erosion, the chainsaw in his hand had already fallen. Chapter 15:13. Sizzle. The sound of the chainsaw cutting echoed throughout the warehouse area. Sally, who was constantly clearing the zombies outside, suddenly stopped because she smelled a familiar scent that made her afraid. When she glanced at the main battlefield, the scene in front of her reminded Sally of a bad memory. Hiss. Breathing through the steel mask, a breath mixed with blood-red color was exhaled. Han Dong was crazily cutting through a pile of disorderly and chaotic swollen rotten meat, cutting every inch of bone and flesh. The emotions revealed in his eyes were neither the joy of a successful battle nor the fear of the infinite proliferation of flesh. There was only an absolute madness immersed in the chainsaw experience, enjoying such a novel and exciting process. The swollen meat that was cut and torn by the chainsaw was also processed by Count. The pieces of meat that were bitten and chewed into pieces turned into minced meat and scattered all over the ground. Laughter, the chainsaw, and the sound of canine teeth together filled the entire warehouse. Sally, who witnessed the scene in front of her, seemed to have returned to the original game. Glenn, who was crazily killing at the top of Corpse Mountain, also showed a similar state. A common trait of madness? Of course, madness was madness. Han Dong was not completely immersed. He was very clear on how to achieve the ultimate goal, to truly kill this special existence that surpassed the highest difficulty of the game. When the cutting reached a certain level, the left arm that had not been used until now slowly extended. Contact desertification. The minced meat that was chewed by the blood dog was highly eroded by the desertification. There was no chance for the target's genes to mutate and the cells to aggregate. Han Dong must complete the entire desertification process before the target adapted to the G-virus. The amount is really large. Although it's the most basic contact desertification, for my current level, if I use it for a long time, my body will slowly be drained. As the desertification continued, the sweat on his forehead kept dripping, and a sense of weakness began to occupy Han Dong's whole body. It was also at this moment. The timer hanging in the mall showed 0000. The countdown ended and the third ladybug pattern appeared. The chaos level increased by another level. Ah! The howling of zombies resounded in the mall. Some of the zombies began to have hair on their bodies, and terrifying claws grew. Some of the zombies even started to gather together, forming terrifying zombie beasts. Previously, the special infected person was also undergoing deeper changes. For example, the pus was growing neatly arranged bile aggregates on his back, similar to grenades. The power of each bomb was comparable to the previous explosion. However, Han Dong didn't care about the changes in his surroundings at all. His gaze remained fixed on his final goal. Due to the increase in the number of ladybugs, the meat that was being turned into sand had a tendency to self-assemble. It seemed to be adapting to the genetic changes brought about by the G-virus. Die. Han Dong risked losing consciousness to forcibly increase the efficiency of the desertification process. When the terrifying head that was about to form turned into scattered sand in the end, the long-awaited system notification popped up one after another. Origin zombie is hard is dead. The material reward will be given after the game ends. Powerful assassin, your performance has won the attention of the Ladybug organization, and you have obtained the absolute privilege of this game. Ladybug organization? Absolute privilege? Han Dong, who was a little dizzy due to excessive energy consumption, tried to keep his consciousness as clear as possible. At the same time, he also discovered a major problem. The zombie network was completely open to Han Dong. In other words, the terminal of the network had been integrated into Han Dong's brain. Originally, he could only check the location of the zombie dots, but now he could check the details for Han Dong, and even directly control them. This absolute privilege? This is too cool. Han Dong's gaze naturally fell on the remaining two assassins. Fatty Sam, who was hanging above his head and unconscious, didn't need to care about him. Knife-throwing Master Azay, who was not far away, was trying to find a way to avoid the zombies and the shopping guide Henry's pursuit. Due to the number of ladybugs being 3, Henry had turned into a terrifying muscle monster. His metallic muscles could even block small-caliber bullet. Suddenly, the zombies chasing Azay all stop. Hey, assassin friend, how about we make a deal? When Azay looked in the direction of the voice, he saw an unforgettable scene. All kinds of mutated zombies were crowding around an ordinary-looking young man. One could even sense an absolute subservience from these zombies, which originated from their genes. The young man standing among the zombies was not at all out of place, just like a king. Fatty Sam was also completely restrained. What do you want? You want me to give you all my points, items, and information, and then kill us? I'm sorry. Sam and I never thought we could leave here alive. Victory or defeat is life or death. Please punish us as you wish. Han Dong quickly waved his hand. Don't misunderstand. I really don't mean to kill anyone. I'm just interested in the chainsaw. Without your help, it would be difficult for me to achieve this victory. The deal is very simple. Give me 40% of your points plus this chainsaw in exchange for your life. This should be a good deal. I think the remaining points and items are enough for you to make a comeback and continue to survive here. If I believe you won't kill us, we can make the deal at the exit of the mall. Once it's over, you can leave. I can only make this much concessions. It's up to you to decide whether to make the deal or not. Okay, Han Dong received 35 ladybug points and obtained the equipment, Viku's flesh equipment, blue quality. He waved goodbye to the two with a smile on his face. At the same time, all the zombies in the mall sent him off with their eyes. Sally asked puzzledly, Nicholas, why didn't you kill them to prevent future trouble? These two guys are quite powerful. Han Dong's face raised an unnatural smile. It's because their strength is good that I let them go. With their level, they should be able to continue playing and get more points and items. If they really want to take revenge on us, we can use the reputation of legitimate self-defense to gain a wave of benefit. Obviously, we saw two pigs with potential for growth. It's a pity to kill them directly. Our real opponents are strong people like Bop and Aslan. There are also absolute geniuses from other superworlds. Every choice we make is very important. Oh, after the two assassins left the game, the final notification came one after another. In terms of points, Han Dong and Sally respectively received Usain base number, 4, times number of ladybugs, 3, plus eliminated team, 2 by 10, which is 32 points. At the same time, the two also received a reward called Assassin EXP, which seemed to be related to a certain level. The relevant statistics will be carried out after leaving the game. Please go to the place where Origin Zombie is Hard died to receive the game's special reward, Zombie Bloodline. Chapter 15-14. Following the system prompt, he returned to the warehouse. The area where Origin Zombies Hard was killed had been cleared of yellow sand, leaving behind only a special item, a pure silver syringe. The syringe was filled with thick mucus, similar to some kind of spinal fluid. Just as Han Dong stepped forward to pick it up, the item information was immediately transmitted to his brain. The difficulty of Origin Zombie in this game is much higher than the difficulty of the game itself. It is set as a key element of escape. Due to the fact that you crossed the escape limit and killed the Origin Zombie, the Ladybug organization has decided to grant you a special reward beyond the level of this game, a Zombie Bloodline. The relevant description is as follows. Silver Syringe, Bloodline Level B Basic Effects. Increase in strength, increase in defense value, additional strengthening of the back, increase in dynamic vision. Special effects, 1. Infection, Body fluid transmission can actively infect organic life. Infected will become a low-level zombie. In difficult game scenes, special NPCs or killers with special physiques can be immune to this effect. 2. Spinal disease, at a critical moment, can activate the virus living in the spinal column, stimulating the whole body cells to enhance all attributes for a few seconds. Note: once the bloodline is selected, it cannot be changed, can be increased through special means. If the individual wants to change the bloodline, it can only be removed through the extremely expensive bloodline stripping. Good stuff. This kind of zombie bloodline substance, if used on me, will inevitably have unexpected effects. I just learned about the concept of bloodline in this game. I didn't expect to get a bloodline item so quickly, and it is a zombie bloodline that is more suitable for me, far more valuable than werewolves. Without hesitation, Han Dong picked up the silver syringe, inserted it directly into the neck aorta, and pushed it into the body. Han Dong was in his best condition, and there was no place safer than the mall. Thousands of zombies provided him with protection, and at the same time, it gave him a sense of zombie-like vibe. Just as the liquid mixed into the body, there was no expected feeling of electric current throughout the body. Moreover, the bloodline transformation that should have been there did not come. Instead, there was a resonance from the right arm. The spinal fluid injected from the neck was wrapped and driven by the blood and went straight to the right arm. Han Dong did not stop the process. Instead, he smiled as if he had expected this. Since it is a zombie-type substance, it will inevitably interact with the G-virus. I don't know to what extent. The G-virus had always been carrying out infrastructure projects in his right arm. Whether it was the subsequent tentacle isomerization, bloodhound stripping, or holy blood derivation, everything related to the transformation of flesh and blood was supported by the G-virus. Currently, most of their abilities were suppressed, and their levels were limited to human levels. As an infrastructure project, the G-virus would once again occupy the high ground and play a major role. The moment the spinal fluid from the syringe entered the body, a resonance effect, the G-virus seemed to have smelled an opportunity for change. He took the initiative to fight for the ownership of the spinal fluid material and guided it to his right arm in a wrapped state, absorbing, integrating, and transforming it into a bloodline substance that was more suitable for Han Dong. In other words, the G-virus was absorbing the characteristics of the spinal fluid and integrating them into a higher quality, unique zombie bloodline mainly based on the G-virus. Then, it would further modify Han Dong's body. Abnormalities detected in the bloodline modification. The original spinal cord material is undergoing a qualitative change. The related properties are being re-examined. Please wait a moment. Whoosh. A very representative giant eye opened on the right arm. Sally also smelled an indescribably powerful scent. She could clearly sense that Han Dong was undergoing a qualitative change. So strong. Out of her admiration for Han Dong and the attraction of the strong aura, Sally was eager to go forward and touch Han Dong's body. However, when Sally's palm was about to reach the position corresponding to Han Dong's chest mutated. A bloody mouth full of ribs and sharp teeth appeared and tried to swallow Sally directly. She was so scared that she quickly retreated. Purple tentacles appeared at the back of her head and were in a taut state. Han Dong did not know what was going on outside. He was fully focused on the bloodline modification mutation. Bloodline value has been updated. It has become Zombie Bloodline G mutation, God mutation. Silver frame syringe, bloodline level B has become diamond embedded syringe, bloodline level S basic effect. 1. Strength increase. 2. Defense increased, additional strengthening of back. 3. Increased regeneration and mutation. When an individual focuses on a certain limb, the effect can be maximized. 4. Enhanced dynamic vision special effect. 1. Infection, same as above. 2. Spine integration. The original spine activation effect has been replaced. The spine can be used as an energy storage device to support and provide more efficient regeneration, mutation, and body activity. 3. G-form. This effect cannot be directly described. It will change according to the individual's physical characteristics, total tolerance, and ability to control the G-virus. The change in form can be continuously deepened. Every time you enter the next form, you will receive a corresponding increase in body value. At the same time, you will bear a heavier burden of mutation. Special warning: if an individual cannot bear the burden of mutation, resulting in the collapse of consciousness, the G-virus will no longer be restrained and will develop without limit. It will become a zombie lump with no fixed form and desire to devour all organic matter in the world. Considering the protection of the game, once an individual falls into an uncontrollable state, they will be executed by the ladybug killer on the spot. This feeling is the same as when I tried to control the G-virus in the stargazing room. However, the experience is completely different. At that time, I used the G-Virus as the infrastructure of my right arm to carry all the abilities of my right arm. But this special game of fate made me return to my previous state. Most of my abilities were suppressed. The G-Virus absorbed and assimilated a bloodline-type substance that can change the whole body. It has a direct impact on my whole body. It can be considered as a dream realization of an evolution idea. I have always wanted to try to use the G-Virus as the main ability and see how far an individual can go. When Han Dong opened his eyes, everything returned to normal. He was still wearing a steel mask and an ordinary person's image shrouded in a black robe. It was just that the zombies in the entire supermarket were in a kneeling state. The sense of submission from the origin made these extreme creatures that only knew how to eat meat and spread viruses all kneel down. Facing such a scene, a concept rushed into Han Dong's brain. In an instant, the stone tablet at the bottom of the abyss of truth seemed to have many drawings. Nicholas, did you feel it? Sally, who had become a mythical body, captured the changes in the concept just now. There seemed to be a strange feeling just now, but the talent tree in my brain was completely sealed. I am not too sure myself. In short, the harvest this time is too great. Not only the form, but I also obtained a temporary replacement for the talent tree. Han Dong reached out and touched the slightly protruding spine. Pure source energy was stored in it, replacing the sealed talent tree as an energy storage device. This way, Han Dong could use his ability and fight for a longer time. Sally, let's go to the store again. You've earned enough points in this game to unlock some important abilities. Chapter 15:15. Deep in the alley at the corner of the block, the sign Ladybug Store was particularly eye-catching. Sizzle! Steam rose. A killer who had just achieved the release of his ability was walking out of the store, releasing a large amount of steam from the gaps in his muscles. He even needed to bend down as he walked out of the store. His sturdy physique almost filled up the entire alley. Through the gaps between his clothes, one could vaguely see a kind of muscle tissue that was not covered by skin. However, as the steam was released, it was refitting the tighter skin. Just as he stepped out of the alley and headed for the next target point. With an ape-like sense of smell, he unexpectedly smelled a familiar bloody smell coming from the restaurant across the street. Ignoring the potential danger, he went straight to the restaurant and approached the kitchen door where the smell overflowed. Whoosh! A cold blade fell in front of his neck. When the killer lurking here noticed the unusually sturdy figure, he said with some fear, "Don't meddle. Hurry up and leave. This has nothing to do with you." The sturdy youth with the blade at his neck didn't back down. Instead, he completely ignored the blade at his neck and continued to poke his head forward, trying to see the situation inside the kitchen. It was as if the blade couldn't cut his skin at all. In the kitchen room, a young man with disheveled hair was fixed to the table. Several of his fingers had been cut off, and his body had been drilled in many places. There were even some parts that had been burned and carbonized by flamethrowers, as well as some indescribable physical damage. It was a horrible sight. Strangely, the young man seemed unusually calm, even revealing a sense of loss. The reason why these people did this was to force the young man to hand over all his ladybug points and props without accumulating killing points. But this time, they had encountered a tough nut to crack. They had almost exhausted all means of torture, but the young man didn't have much of a reaction. He kept saying words like, "troublesome." The sturdy youth standing at the kitchen door asked with a puzzled expression, "Kit, can't you handle these guys?" Is it Hopper?" Sigh. "This world has suppressed my level and many of my abilities. In my current state, I might be able to barely kill them, but it will be very troublesome. Although it's troublesome to be caught by them here, I don't have to think about anything. Maybe they'll let me go when they're done torturing me." Hope's expression wasn't too good. After all, Kit's injuries were too severe. Although the two of them weren't very familiar with each other, Since they were on the same team and from the same batch of origin essence, Hope still regarded Kit as a partner. If I help you, will there be less trouble? Okay. With your help, killing these guys won't be so troublesome. The conversation between the two completely ignored the three assassins present. They had already taken out all kinds of weapons from their waists, revealing their killing intent. You want to, before he could finish his words, a huge slap landed on his face. Pop! There was a loud bang. The transformation between a living body and a corpse took only an instant. The male corpse smashed through the restaurant's glass and fell heavily on the street. It immediately dissipated into data. The entire skull, including the facial muscles and teeth, was completely shattered. It was barely connected to the body by the skin on the neck. Hope had just unlocked infinite strength with the ladybug points. Although it wasn't as crazy as it was in reality, compared to killers of the same level, the level of strength was crushing. The battle did not last long. A short while later, Hope left the restaurant with the bruised and battered Kit on his back. This legitimate defense had unexpectedly earned him nearly 100 points, as well as some props and equipment. He returned to the store again. Hope didn't want a single cent, all of it used to recover Kit's body and unseal his ability. Hope knew very well that if Kit was really serious, his efficiency in killing enemies would be far greater than his. At a certain junkyard, a deathmatch game had just ended. A youth with a head full of green hair appeared at the entrance to the junkyard station. Pieces of cloth were wrapped around his wounds, and he was holding a long spear with an electric shock effect in his hand. Because he was too tired, he was sitting in front of the junkyard drinking sewage. Suddenly, a piercing chill came from the side, forcing him to stand up with the spear in hand. A short while later, the squint-eyed youth slowly walked out from the intersection. Eugene, we're always so faded. Is it just you? Have you figured out what Pope and the others are up to? No clue. Cooperate? Or are we doing our own thing? Although Aslan asked this, his cold palm had already landed in front of Eugene. Pop. Eugene slapped it down heavily and slowly got up with the others' help. Just as their palms touched, a wisp of icy coldness entered Eugene's body, helping to expel the blood clots and impurities. Let's do it together. It's more efficient. A death decryption game has reached the highest clearance requirements. In addition to the regular rewards, additional custom-made rewards have been obtained. Please choose by yourself. In a classroom of an elementary school, the completely anthropomorphic Pope was no longer the starry head of the past. Instead, he had turned into a somewhat thin youth with eyes as bright as the starry sky and long black hair that reached his ears. Between his hair, one could faintly see sparkling stars. Hide. Choose a reward that suits you. Murloc bloodline, water attribute secret books, or equipment are all fine. Pope, what about you? I'm not in a hurry at all. Increasing your combat power in the early stages will smooth the overall rhythm, allowing you to smoothly reach the middle and late stages of the game. Hyde habitually scratched his cheek where there should be gills. Then I'll choose the bloodline. I'm still not used to the pure human physique. Pope played with the coin between his fingers while looking at the bright moon outside the window. He nodded slightly. Well, that's it. It's really an interesting journey of destiny. I hope everyone has a smooth time. If Black Goat Sally's figure and appearance could make male killers have a strong desire, they would be willing to take a certain risk to obtain this woman. Then, in another corner of the city, there was another person who could completely arouse all the desires of male killers. Some of the killers who were not determined enough were even willing to bet their lives. Sixth origin, a Helen Silber. Under the situation where many of her abilities were sealed, she actually brought in her beauty, which was directly reflected through a mole under her eye. But some of the males who had seen Helen's true appearance would chase after her crazily. Currently, due to a hidden trap in a high-difficulty game, the cloak that Helen used to cover her appearance was destroyed, and her appearance was seen by other individuals. Currently, there were 7 killers chasing after her on the street. Even if Helen covered her appearance again, it would be of no use. Her right leg was pierced by an arrow. There were also a few spikes on her back. Due to the hallucinogenic effect, Helen's brain analysis and vision were obstructed, and she accidentally turned into an alley without an exit. Just as she was about to be caught, the iron door in the deepest part of the alley suddenly opened, and a rather strong arm directly pulled Helen in. Helen, who wanted to struggle, saw a face that she had been thinking about day and night. Even ignoring the foreign objects between her legs and back, he directly pushed her onto the floor, however. Before Helen could do anything more extreme, the 6th finger quietly pierced into her brain, forcing her to fall into a deep sleep. A beauty mole. Not bad. Fortunately, I heard an abnormal sound and came to take a look. Otherwise, Helen would be forced out of her inner in advance, which might cause her body to be eliminated by the system. Chapter 15-16. The Familiar Factory and the Familiar Ladybug Store. All the Ladybug points gained in the mall game had been transferred to Sally, a total of 99 points. If it wasn't enough, it could be made up by selling items. Sally's current unlocked ability options were as follows: Frowny Face Breeding, -50 Tentacle Isomerization, Sheep's Hooves, 2 stages. -30 Body Unlocked, 3 stages. -100 There was also a unique unlocked item, limited to participants whose original level was mythical. It unlocked Territory, Forest of Sheep. The effect of the territory was a weakened version, and the effect would be limited to the current character level. Even so, the effect was still very strong. Unlocking the territory required a total of 200 points, and Sally could only write it down for now. First, she spent 50 points to unlock Breeding, which was very important in the early and middle stages of the game. Not only could it breed life, but it could also breed desired limbs. If a limb was chopped or burned in the game and couldn't be reattached, she could create a new one through the breeding site, which was very effective in dangerous situations. In addition, she spent another 30 points to unlock Tentacle Isomerization, Sheep's Hooves E, which increased the control of the tentacles and strengthened the kicking skills. It was also when Sally leveled up. Han Dong leaned against the door of the store and thought about the important information he had obtained in the game. In addition to the Ladybug points, he also obtained a special value called Killer Experience Points. Although it was experience points, it didn't mean the same as in video games. It didn't give the individual the effect of leveling up, and it didn't have the same level change as bronze or silver. It was a special consumable that measured the killer. In the city where the Day of the Ladybug was going on, there would occasionally be special games, activities, and so on. These games often corresponded to higher complexity and difficulty, and to participate, one had to pay killer experience points. It was equivalent to the game designer screening talents through experience points to ensure the excitement of special games. This kind of game that required experience points to participate naturally corresponded to very high-value rewards that couldn't be bought in the store, such as high-level bloodlines, equipment, privileges, and so on. If there is a reset of experience points, it's basically certain that to win the final treasure, I have to accumulate a lot of experience points to qualify for the game with the highest difficulty. In addition, Han Dong also received a reward, similar to the situation in the hospital. Since the difficulty of clearing the game was number of ladybugs, 3, and Han Dong also completely controlled the zombie group in the mall. Unlock Walmart department store. Han Dong could go there to take refuge and obtain basic supplies when he was not in the game. At the same time, he could also be protected by zombies. Unlocking the scenario might not just be a convenience for me. This fate event was too similar to a game. I even suspected that everything that was happening was virtual. As the game progressed, unexpected changes might occur, and these scenes that were unlocked in advance might play a greater role. He wanted to unlock as many scenes as possible. There was also the Ladybug organization. Were they the managers of this special Destiny world? Due to my unexpected performance, I had received a lot of attention. If this attention continued to increase, I should be able to come into contact with this organization and figure out the nature of the Ladybug game. I might even be able to touch upon the origin of the world. If my head can absorb this kind of special world origin that isn't bound by the Black Tower's rules, I wonder what kind of changes will occur. Perhaps it will be very interesting, ha ha. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but laugh crazily. Coincidentally, Sally, who was feeling the release of her ability, walked out of the shop and bumped into Han Dong, who was covering his mouth and giggling. "What made you so happy?" "Nothing, the steps were a bit too big." "Sally, do you have any points left?" "Yes, I have 19 points left." "Wait a moment, I'll try to modify the chainsaw." Viku's flesh equipment was the first blue equipment that Han Dong had obtained in the Ladybug game. According to Han Dong's current knowledge, blue excellent equipment was extremely rare here. Assassins who were suppressed to their normal state rarely had the chance to use the full power of excellent equipment. After the shop owner's appraisal, this Destiny equipment came from a medium world, Jericho. It was also one of the subordinate worlds of Hell. No wonder Han Dong had taken a fancy to this chainsaw at first sight. "Boss, can you remove the fat from the chainsaw's power system and change it into pure blood power? 10 points of modification cost, and an additional 10 minutes of waiting time. If the quality of the blood you provide is comparable to the original user's fat and blood, the chainsaw's effect will not be affected." "Thank you." After a series of modifications, the appearance of the engine became a more intuitive appearance of a heart. Han Dong left the shop with a satisfied face. He was excited but also somewhat tired. Since entering the game, he had played 2 high-intensity games in succession. "Sally, let's find a safe and hidden area to rest for a while. Next, with our state we should be able to achieve fast points. While the game has not yet undergone a stage change, let's quickly get more Ladybug points." "Okay." They found a quiet apartment building. Even though the rooms here looked relatively safe, for safety reasons, they still chose to sleep in shifts. With the help of the tentacles, they were completely immersed in a deep sleep, and it only took 3 hours to fully recover. In the next 2 days, the name Chainsaw spread in the Helmet Lip District. Ladybug City was divided into a Helmet Lip District, a Small Hair District, a Food District, Eye District, and a Hidden District, 5 major districts. A terrifying rumor that had just arisen had spread in the Helmet Lip District. It was said that there was a rookie killer with an ordinary body but carrying a chainsaw. He often wandered in the current area and specifically participated in games with a base of a 4 and above. His companion was a woman with a beautiful figure who often hid in the dark. Some people also said that his companion was a more ferocious dog. As long as the chainsaw participated in the game, he would definitely win. Any killer who had thoughts about the chainsaw would eventually be reduced to nothing and become the chainsaw's energy source. Only a few killers had seen the true appearance of the chainsaw, but the sayings were not quite the same. Some people said that the chainsaw had 3 arms and even barked between the arms. Some people said that the chainsaw's thin body was camouflaged. The real body could reach a very exaggerated level, and even a giant eye would grow on the shoulder. Some people also said that the chainsaw might be an immortal sent by the system and could not be killed by various fatal injuries. On the 4th day, when everyone came to Ladybug City, night fell. When the young man with the chainsaw was looking for a suitable game in the streets, the street broadcast suddenly turned on. Attention to the killers in the Helmet Lip District. A supernatural special event will be held in a Black Shell residential street in 5 hours. You can go to the area to check the relevant game information. The special event is finally here. Chapter 15-17. Black Shell Residential Street. This was an area of townhouses located in the suburbs. Compared to other areas in the city, it was gloomier. Especially when the event notice was released, the temperature here suddenly dropped, and even the nearby streets were affected. When individuals approached the event area, they could clearly feel the temperature gradient change. The normal temperature in the city was around 20 degrees Celsius. When they approached the intersection of Black Shell Street, the temperature was exactly 0 degrees Celsius. The cold air exhaled from their mouths was clearly visible. Once they approached this area, the killer players would receive the event notice. Most of the killers who did not have kill points would choose the brightly lit avenue to go to the intersection. The street lights extended to here, and the light could not penetrate the event area. The Black Shell residential street at the front was wrapped in a layer of abnormal black fog. Everyone could only vaguely see the outline of the villas near the intersection. More and more killers appeared at the intersection. "The chainsaw is here." The exclamation made most of the people turn their heads. They saw a young man hidden in a cloak, with chainsaws and living arms crossed on his back, also coming to the intersection along the avenue. There was indeed a female companion beside him. Although she was hidden in a cloak, the exposed calves of her leather clothes were enough to show her gender and figure. At the same time, the rumored Sansien also appeared. However, he was more terrifying than described. His bright red hair exuded a more dignified bloody aura, enough to make people retreat. "Count, do you smell something that is more difficult to deal with?" Han Dong's gaze seemed to be focused in front, but in private, he let Count do a rough check through blood and smell. "There are a few killers here who have a very special aura. They are much more powerful than those we have encountered before. However, this Count thinks that they are real masters. Or rather, travelers of fate from other worlds will not swagger to the most crowded intersection like you. They will choose a more secretive path and approach the event area from the other side. Well, let's see if the event content is suitable for us first." When Han Dong approached the intersection, an event flyer fell into his hand. Special event Box of Resentment Introduction. A secret box made by a mysterious craftsman that can infinitely release resentment was lost in Black Shell Residential Street. Due to the existence of the box, a large number of evil spirits filled with resentment had been born. They hated living beings and would kill anyone who approached the box at all costs. Furthermore, this street seemed to be hiding even more unspeakable secrets. This event was destined to be filled with fear and death. Type: Paranormal Treasure Hunting Note. This event is filled with evil spirits. They are incorporeal and extremely aggressive. They will also be affected by the ladybug. Killers who want to participate in this game, in addition to spending enough experience points, also need to go through an entry test, free. If an individual does not have the ability and equipment to fight against evil spirits, they are not allowed to participate in the game. Individual team, maximum allowed team of 3 people. Entry method: free entry note. Assassins who have obtained the qualifications to participate can enter the street area from any direction. Restriction: this event has a resistance restriction. In the early stage of the event, 2 hours after the start, all forms of resistance are prohibited. Once discovered, it will be forcefully removed and a huge amount of points will be deducted. 2 hours after the start of the battle, there would no longer be any penalties for regular confrontations. If there were deaths, the other side's kill points would be accumulated. Number of ladybugs. This event will be completely random. Assassins who have obtained the qualifications to participate in the event will be given a ladybug counter before entering the venue. The counter will clearly mark the number of ladybugs at the current time. Note: completely random mode means that the number of ladybugs will change irregularly. For example, the current number of ladybugs is, after a period of time, maybe 5 minutes or half an hour, the number of ladybugs will randomly change to 5, the maximum value, also known as the number of deaths. Out of the principle of protection, there is a safe house in the event scene. When the next random number is 5, the counter will issue an alarm 1 minute in advance. Please be sure to take refuge in the nearest safe house as soon as possible. Clearance requirements. Find the box of resentment and leave the event area with it. Reward. The first player will receive 3 times the experience points reward, a large amount of points reward, and the right to open the box of resentment. The rest of the survivors will receive experience points and points rewards according to their performance during the event. Special note: special events cannot be left in the middle of the event. All escape cards are invalid. The event will continue until a certain team meets the clearance requirement. Paranormal treasure hunting? This is the first time I've encountered this kind of spirit game. And it's a completely random ladybug mode without any rhythm. 5 is the maximum value, and it's also the number of deaths on a theoretical level. In this area full of evil spirits, the death rate is even higher. It's worthy of being a special event. The difficulty is really high. Let's go test the qualifications first. If you don't pass, it's useless to think too much. At present, many assassins gathered at the crossroads have chosen to leave when they see the type of evil spirits that have no physical body. They still want to live a little longer, and even if they have to die, they don't want to die in this kind of irresistible fear. The free detection station is located at a public phone booth at the crossroad. The phone booth will conduct a thorough scan of the individual. When the phone rings, you can hear the relevant detection results when you pick up the phone. Assassin Han Dong detected that you have the following abilities or items that can be used to fight against spirit. 1. O tentacles, strong against spirituality. 2. To underworld blood and associated equipment, Viku's flesh equipment, moderate against spirituality. 3. A prison's brain, stage 2, moderate against spirituality. Meets the basic requirements to participate in the event. Han Dong has unlocked the second stage of the ability, prison's brain, in the previous grinding. As expected, the tentacle itself is a great killing weapon for a spirit body. Han Dong clearly remembered the first Fate event, Bewitched, that he participated in. In the end, he used the tentacles to directly kill the undefeatable evil spirit. As the original substance, Sally naturally passed the detection easily. Next, he only needed to pay a certain amount of EXP to obtain the right to participate in the event and a watch that could display the number of Ladybug. At this moment, a group of assassins surrounded him. Sally saw this and was ready for battle. Unexpectedly, the assassins that surrounded him all looked rather naive or friendly. I've long heard of the famous chainsaw. I'm sure your chainsaw can easily cut through evil spirits. My name is Weems Turner. My EXP has reached 3,000. People call me Dark Knight Scissorhands. Other than being able to cut open the throats of evil spirits, I can also release Shadow Cloak to reduce the probability of us being discovered by evil spirits, greatly increasing the probability of finding us and the success rate of reaching the safe house. I hope I can join your team. Following that, a few more assassins reported their names. This event allowed a maximum of 3 people to form a team. Many lone wolf assassins tried to come to Han Dong, the famous chainsaw, to try their luck. Unfortunately, Han Dong was unwilling to accept anyone other than his original teammates. It might be convenient, but it was more of an unstable factor. Considering that a direct rejection would incur the wrath of the villain, Han Dong chose the best way to reject them. I'm so sorry. Our team is full. Full? Aren't there only 2 of you? Han Dong pointed at the red dog lying at the side. Bok Count, the legendary Scarlet Killer. He's also one of us, huh? This mongrel? Count was offended. It immediately opened its bloody mouth and bit the pants of the person who spoke rudely into pieces. The dog's mouth even spat out human words. Scram! Do you believe that this Count will turn you into blood wine in minutes? Chapter 1518. Although the nature of the game had dissuaded many assassins and eliminated those who were not strong enough to fight against spirits, only a small number of them remained. Even so, the number of assassins participating in the game still exceeded the normal number. The number of assassins who passed the test at the crossroads of the main road reached 18. The assassins who arrived through the hidden path or from the other side had not been counted. The estimated number of participants in the event was 30. Since the broadcast spread across a large area, there was a high probability that there would be original bodies mixed in with the participants, or passengers of fate from other worlds. I don't know who I'll meet in this event. I hope it's not someone too troublesome. On the side path of the Black Shell residential street, a special team of 3 was approaching. The reason why it was special was that the 3 of them did not look like they were from the same place. At the same time, one of them was in a special state, so they had to choose a deserted path to get close to the event area. The leader had an Asian face. His black hair fell over his shoulders, and he did not deliberately cover his face with light makeup. He wore clean clothes. He held a folding fan in his arms. His actions were simple but did not lose his bearing. The second team member had a completely different aura. He exuded a more fatal aura. A black hooded trench coat covered part of his face, revealing a relatively sharp chin and a mouth sealed by a talisman. A hammer engraved with tactics hung on his belt. The inside of the trench coat was densely lined with iron nails that had been baptized by some kind of ritual. The third team member was also the one in a special state. His name hung above his head in red letters. This person's slaughter level had reached 2. Individual information was automatically disclosed, including points held, equipment held, and related ability values. Killing this person would only accumulate a small amount of slaughter points, and at the same time, they would receive double points and 2 random items. This person's appearance was even stranger. His body leaned forward, his arms hanging down. His tongue was hanging out at all times, and there was often saliva dripping out. Ding ding ding! With every step this person took, a series of faint metal clanging sounds came from his clothes. Under his clothes, every inch of his skin was pierced by red lines, and there was a copper coin hanging from it. His whole body was also covered with strange tactical patterns. It seemed to be deliberately restricting his strange body in this way. His entire body was emitting a strange aura of madness. This group of people were not natives of the Ladybug world, but travelers of fate who had consumed the expensive Destiny treasure map to come here from the Black Tower. For such an important treasure hunt, they had made sufficient preparations. Furthermore, the world they belonged to was also ranked first with as in the Black Tower sequence. They came from a super world with a complete world system and more than double digits in the number of kings. They were also the cream of the crop in the superworld. Before their abilities were suppressed, they were all mythical bodies. Before entering, he also threw the lucky dice. His luck was better than Han Dong's, and he got 4 points. Due to the bonus of luck, 3 of them had met in advance and formed the current team. After reading the rules of the event, the man with his tongue hanging out of his mouth said excitedly, "Boss, this game seems to be very suitable for you. Our luck is really good, ha-see ha-see." I could already smell an aura that made my body tremble slightly. The danger level was far higher than the previous games we had participated in. This unknown sense of danger made me feel so good. I want to kill. At this moment, 2 assassin teams came out from different directions of the secret path. They came here because they received the reminder of killing points. The man with his tongue hanging out of his mouth said excitedly, "Someone is coming again. That's great. This way, we can start warming up in advance. Boss, can I kill them?" "You must ensure that it is legitimate defense. Your killing points can't continue to accumulate, otherwise, it will seriously affect our follow-up progress." "Okay." When he heard that he could kill people, his eyes almost popped out. At the same time, he took off his clothes, revealing his body covered with copper coins. Despite having such a strange body and exuding an extremely crazy aura, the surrounding assassin team was not intimidated. After all, they had also experienced many games. They had seen and killed all kinds of monsters, and they still had an absolute advantage in numbers. Come quickly and kill me. Boss said that I must kill you in the form of legitimate defense. As soon as the words were spoken, a hidden blade hidden in the night was attached to the neck of the man with the tongue. Whoosh! His neck was almost completely cut off, leaving only a piece of skin connecting it. At the same time, blood spurted out of his artery, and the copper coins hanging from his neck fell to the ground. When the crisp sound of the copper coins falling to the ground spread, the surrounding environment became strange. The assassin with the hidden blade did not receive the notification that he had killed his target. Just as he realized that something was wrong and was about to pull away, a black arm suddenly reached out from the neck that was cut open. The 5 fingers opened and pinched the opponent's head. There was no delay. Crack! The skull instantly shattered, and the muscles and brain inside were also squeezed together. He died on the spot. The battle was on the verge of breaking out. Forbidden words. Go and help. Don't let Dong Yi use too much stamina. There are many variables in this game, and we need his strength at critical moment. Forbidden words, whose mouth was sealed by a talisman, nodded, grabbed the small hammer at his waist, and slowly stepped into the chaotic area. The battle lasted for about 10 minutes. Painful howls constantly came from the small path, and people constantly shouted the word monster. Unfortunately, there was an assassin who was cut in half at the waist who used a special secret technique to preserve his life, and with a large amount of potions, his lower body grew back. Using the identity of a fish that escaped the net, he quietly approached the handsome young man who did not make a move at all. With a wave of his arm, a large number of daggers were thrown out of his sleeves. Suddenly, something strange happened. The folding fan did not open, but only moved slightly. All the daggers that were attacking him stopped in the air and fell down by themselves. What kind of monsters are you? Even if I have to die here, I will drag one of you down with me. A powerful detonator that was specially made by this person was placed in his mouth, and using himself as a medium, he suddenly rushed over. He had already decided that he would die, and had no intention of leaving alive. This action made the young man frown slightly. The folding fan was partially opened. Under the moonlight, a terrifying creature similar to a black dog came out from the fan and waved its sharp claws. Whoosh! The assassin who rushed over was unable to resist, and was torn into pieces in the air. The detonator in his mouth was also unable to be successfully detonated. Chapter 15-19. Notice. There are only 15 minutes left before the opening of the box of resentment. Killers who have passed the ability test can pay experience points in advance for pre-entry. Pre-entry is only limited to street activities, and you are not allowed to set foot in any building. During this period, all abilities are prohibited, and you are not allowed to attack other killer players indirectly or directly. At the crossroads, when they heard the notice of pre-entry, a total of 18 killers paid 500 experience points in succession. If they could win the event or survive until the end of the game, they would be directly returned according to the fixed rate of paid experience points. Once the experience points were paid, they would get a bracelet that could display the number of ladybugs. When everyone tried to step into the street of townhouses covered by the black miasma, they were still a little hesitant. Only the chainsaw with a dog and a mysterious female companion did not hesitate and was the first to enter. This also made everyone more afraid of the chainsaw. During the event, they tried to avoid it as much as possible. Of course, if the chainsaw fell into some kind of desperate situation, they did not mind taking advantage of the situation and making a big profit. I don't feel very comfortable. As soon as she stepped into the street, Sally felt uncomfortable. During the time when Han Dong became famous, the two gained a lot of ladybug points. Sally also spent 100 points for the first stage of the body unsealing, and some of the characteristics of the black goat had already reappeared. Walking in the street covered by the black miasma, the black goat's hair stood up. Not only because of the 0 degrees Celsius temperature, but also because of a sense of danger. The single-family villas located here seemed to be completely abandoned because they had not been taken care of for a long time. There were one or several relatively dense trees between the overgrown courtyards, and the small villas would be blocked by branches and leaves, which made them look more gloomy. There was an intuitive feeling of being in the Juan. The windows were either closed with curtains, covered with newspapers, or nailed with boards. Even so, Sally still felt that something was watching her through the window. Out of the perception of danger and the increasingly piercing cold, she could not help but get close to the man next to her. Han Dong also gave a preliminary inference during the pre-entry period at this time. The level of difficulty is really not comparable to a conventional game. I have to find a chance to test the strength of the spirit body before I can make the relevant arrangements. There were so many townhouses here that it was impossible to find the box of resentment by luck alone. In order to make the event more interesting, there was a high chance that they would set up a more complicated and non-linear progressive process. They would need to collect relevant clues or passwords from different villas, or reach certain conditions before they could slowly approach the real location of the box. No matter what, we should focus on finding the safe house in the beginning. At this moment, Count, who was walking in front, seemed to have smelled something. He immediately turned around and jumped onto Han Dong's body, returning on his own. Han Dong was still a little puzzled. After all, the event had not yet begun. Theoretically, there should not be any danger. Count, who had returned to his body, immediately said, "There are 3 powerful auras approaching. Just based on the intensity of their auras, it's completely different from the group of people at the crossroads. Or rather, it's completely different from the people we've met so far." Oh right. Ben Count's return was not because he was afraid or wanted to hide. This Count's existence is a huge trump card for you, so it is very necessary to hide it in front of such an opponent. Otherwise, it won't be easy to deal with this group of people later. Okay, that's all for now. Those guys should be here soon. Although Han Dong knew that Count was scared, someone who could scare Count without even showing up must have some skills. Is it Pope's group or the other travelers of destiny? Han Dong and Sally also stopped in their tracks. The black miasma that pervaded the streets limited vision to a range of 5 meters. 3 killers with completely different appearances, auras, and clothing walked out one after another. Among them, the killer with the tongue hanging out of his body and the sound of copper coins when he walked was still in a red name state. Travelers from other worlds? There's a reason for the Count's fright. These 3 guys aren't simple, especially this handsome young man. Is he Asian? When the 2 teams approached, sniffed Dong Yi, whose tongue was hanging out of his body, seemed to have smelled the scent of a strong person. He actually took the initiative to stick his nose to Han Dong and sniff around. What a strong smell of blood. Boss, this guy is much stronger than the average killer. Can I kill him? Dong Yi completely ignored Han Dong. His actions and words were full of provocation. Who knew? Slap. A hand that was more delicate than a woman's slapped Dong Ye's face heavily. The loud sound of a slap echoed through the street. The handsome man frowned and glared at his companion. Who told you to be so rude, Dong Yi? Hurry up and apologize. After being slapped, Dong Yi became obedient. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Please forgive his rude behavior. It's okay. Han Dong's emotionless voice came from behind the steel mask. This event is extremely dangerous. If we're lucky enough to meet in time of danger, I hope we can help each other get through this together. As for the boxes needed to clear the stage, we'll rely on our own strength. Han Dong didn't reply. Instead, he frowned and left with Sally. His heart was already filled with anger. If it weren't for the event's rules, Han Dong might have attacked just now. However, his target wasn't the rude lunatic with his tongue hanging out of his mouth. Instead, it was the handsome man. He seemed to have gone up to talk to him out of courtesy, but in fact, he was secretly spying on Han Dong's characteristic. Nicholas, they seem to have some ideas about you. If we meet again during the event, they might target us, right? It's okay. If they want to come, we'll play with them. However, we should try not to fight them head-on. The best choice is to use the safe house and the event's random difficulty to deal with them. Otherwise, both sides might suffer. Yeah, that pretty boy just now was really disgusting. He gave off a smell that I didn't like. On the three-man team's side. Were we discovered? Staring at the two people who disappeared into the black miasma, the handsome man tapped his shoulder with the handle of his fan. He seemed a little helpless. Boss, those two guys just now were pretty strong, right? Yeah. They were quite handsome. I really want to talk to them. Let's go. Since we still have some time, let's continue to see if there are other players we need to pay attention to. There were only 10 seconds left on the pre-entry countdown. The event venue was about to be sealed off by the black circle. A swift figure suddenly came to the front of the area and quickly passed the inspection to enter it. He didn't seem to be interested in the pre-entry information collection at all. Or maybe he deliberately waited until the last moment to enter the event area because he didn't want to be seen by others because of his identity. Or maybe he just happened to pass by and came to have fun. Chapter 15:20. Participants, please get ready. The event is about to begin. 1 minute left. Due to the prohibition of all forms of confrontation in the early stage of the event, 2 hours, the killer teams maintained a certain distance and each chose a villa that looked like it might hide the box of resentment. Even if multiple teams chose the same villa, they would make compromises based on the strength of the aura. Most of the stronger teams would choose luxurious, old, or houses with special symbols in the beginning. Han Dong chose a more ordinary, Japanese-style house. Nicholas, why did we choose this place? With your reputation, you can choose a building that looks special on the surface. Except for the 3 people just now, the other teams should let you choose. Special on the surface doesn't necessarily mean special on the inside. As I said before, an event like this carefully planned by the Ladybug organization is definitely not a matter of luck. The significance of each building should be similar. Also, this Japanese-style building should be very interesting. It's exactly the same as the horror movies I've seen before. Horror movies? What's that? Sally, who was wearing a goat mask, tilted her head. It was the first time she had heard such a term. Probably recorded a dramatic event through some electronic means. You can take it out and watch it again and again at any time. Sally knocked on her head lightly. Brain drama? We often do this kind of entertainment. For example, we throw 2 black goats into a forbidden area where they must die. After they die, we collect their brain cells and extract the memory of this experience for everyone to watch again and again. This is still not the same. If there's a chance, I'll take you to see a movie. Okay. Han Dong refocused his attention on the building. It was almost the same as the cursed house in Juan. Time's up. Buzz. A ripple-like black circle spread out in the center of the street. When it reached the edge of the event area, a hemispherical black curtain immediately rose to completely seal it off from the outside world. The black curtain would only disappear when the killer reached the event requirement. The participants who were restricted by it could not leave by any means. Han Dong immediately looked at the information bracelet. There was only a ladybug image on it. Because it was a completely random mode, it was not clear how many minutes it would take to change and how many ladybugs it would turn into. Sally, let's go. Hurry up and find the safe house. The moment he stepped through the front door, He felt a strange chill seeping out from the floor and crawling into his feet like earthworms. At the same time, he felt like he was being watched from every corner of the house. Even so, Han Dong still made the decision to split up. This building is divided into the first floor, the second floor, and the attic. I'll be in charge of the first floor, and Sally will be in charge of the second floor. Count, go take a look in the attic and inform me if you find anything. Our main objective is to search for safe houses. Han Dong directly threw down the right arm of Lester's caregiver, which was compatible with flesh and blood abilities. Count could use it to transform into an independent entity and move further away. Hey, why does this Count feel that there's something wrong with that attic? Why don't we switch? You'll be in charge of the first floor, and I'll go to the attic. Let me make this clear to you first. There are many rooms and courtyards on the first floor that need to be searched. If you can't find the safe house, the responsibility will be entirely on you. Tisk, I'll leave this kind of hard work to you. This Count will go to the attic. Count wagged his tail and went up the stairs leading to the second floor first. Just as Count rounded the corner of the stairs, tap, 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 a shabby little ball had appeared at the entrance of the staircase and was falling down the stairs. It was about to collide with the Count. Count was not afraid. He was indifferent to the ball rolling down and even showed some of his signature canine teeth. Tap, tap. Facing the ball that was about to come close, Count opened his mouth full of saliva and bit down. Who knew? The moment Count bit down, the ball in front of him turned into a horrible woman's head. Between his messy black hair, he opened his mouth full of razor blades and bit towards the Count as well. Filthy black liquid continued to gush out from his throat. Because they were caught off guard and bit each other at the same time, neither of them stopped. And one was horizontally and the other was vertically. Their mouths happened to fit together. It was better to say that they were perfectly fitted together. The dirty black liquid from the woman's throat kept pouring into Count's mouth. Count suddenly exerted force and bit the ball. There was a pop sound. The ball exploded. The crisp and loud sound made Han Dong, who was downstairs, and Sally, who had just stepped on the stairs, look at the corner of the stairs together. They saw Count holding a leaky ball in his mouth, and even splashing his mouth with a gel-like black liquid. He thought he would be mercilessly laughed at by Han Dong again, who knew that Han Dong would immediately go forward and check if the black liquid was harmful. Fortunately, it was just a rotten and smelly ordinary liquid. Be careful, even if it's a ladybug, you can't take it lightly. Oh, damn. You can rest assured that this Count will do it. After this incident, Count also became serious, and his mentality changed a little. Han Dong walked down the stairs, and when he passed by Sally, he whispered in her ear. In the movies I've seen, the monsters in this kind of building are hidden in the attic. If you hear Count scream later, or if you notice something unusual, remember to help him. Okay. After a brief interlude, Han Dong began to search the first floor. This kind of Japanese building had a paper door as a partition. From the entrance, he came to the largest living room area. The warm table was full of rotten and smelly food. The old TV was turned on, and because there was no signal, it was in a snowflake-like mode. Han Dong's eyes were attracted by the courtyard outside the room. The old crooked tree grew in the courtyard, and a strange white rope was tied to it in a circle. It seemed that someone had hanged themselves there. When Han Dong looked at the rope, a strong desire to hang was born in his brain, driving his body forward. Stepping out of the living room, stepping on the weeds in the courtyard, step by step, he approached the crooked tree, and came to the end of the strange white rope. Unknowingly, there was a huge stone that could be used as a stepping stone. Han Dong didn't hesitate and stepped on it. But Han Dong didn't put his head into the rope circle, but he reached out and gently stroked the rope. How nostalgic! The first time I entered the city, I saw this scene. Han Dong, who had unlocked part of his brain, naturally wouldn't be affected by this kind of mental induction. He directly removed the white rope from the branch and put it in his pocket. Obtained clue item, hanging rope. Chapter 1521. While Han Dong was searching the first floor, Sally and Count came to the second floor one after another. The attic area assigned to Count needed to pass through the entrance on the second floor and enter through the closet in the master bedroom. Sally needed to search the other areas on the second floor, so they split up at the stairs. "Miss Sally, I'll be leaving first. Call me if you need anything." Count's tone was filled with obvious respect. Sally was the famous fourth origin substance. "You should be more careful." After saying that, Sally went to the bathroom area on the second floor alone. As soon as she pushed open the bathroom door, extremely cold water droplets formed on the surface of her body. Drip, drip, drip. The sound of dripping water was particularly clear in such a quiet environment. Strangely, she could hear the dripping water, but she could not see where it was leaking. Although the bathtub and sink were completely filled, the faucet was locked, and there was no dripping water at all. Where did the dripping sound come from? Just as Sally was curious about the source of the dripping water, she discovered another strange detail. This is hair. Whether it was the bathtub, sink, or drain in the bathroom, they were all blocked by thick black hair. There were even strands of hair seeping out from the cracks in the walls and the floor. Although Sally was not afraid of the scene before her, she could faintly sense a trace of danger. After a simple search, she did not find anything, and Sally did not plan to stay for long. Her first goal was to find the safe house. Just as she was about to turn and leave, gurgle, a ball of bubbles rose from the sink, and the black hair rooted inside seemed to be showing signs of loosening. Driven by curiosity, Sally went forward to check the situation. If she found anything, she would definitely be praised by Han Dong. This made Sally even happier than some physical rewards. Just as she approached the sink, she suddenly froze. Sally saw an unbelievable scene in front of her eyes. In the mirror above the sink, other than reflecting herself, there was also a pair of pale long legs, which were less than a meter behind her. More importantly, the legs were suspended in the air, and water droplets kept dripping from the toes. The dripping sound was the source of the dripping water that she had not found. This scene frightened Sally slightly. She almost revealed her true form as the black goat and turned around to kick. Unexpectedly, there was nothing behind him. Just as Sally turned back to the sink with a puzzled look on her face. Whoosh! A pair of bone-chilling arms abruptly reached out from the sink, grabbing Sally by the neck and dragging her head into the sink. The ice-cold arm that was choking her neck even injected water droplets with a paralyzing effect into her skin, making it extremely difficult for Sally to break free. Main body unsealed. First stage, Sally, who had spent 100 points to unlock her ability, was now able to reveal part of her current stance. The tentacles wriggled crazily in his body. The hardened tentacles piled on top of each other, and two sturdy horns grew out of its forehead. The formation of the goat horns meant that Sally had completed the first part of the unsealing process for her main body, an increase in all her attributes. He forcefully resisted the pull of his arm and forcefully pulled his head out of the pool. But Sally even grabbed Icy Cold's arm and dragged it upwards, ignoring the numbing water that kept seeping into her body. Crack! In the process of pulling, Sally even crushed the tiles on the floor, which was a testament to her strength. Ka. The sound of bones cracking could be heard from his arm, and even his skin was about to be torn off. Ah! A series of screams resounded in the bathroom, and the black hair that was blocking the drain began to sway crazily. However, Sally did not react and even increased her strength. Swoosh! The arm was pulled out in its entirety. What was connected to the arm was not a body of flesh and blood, but countless black hair. What was even more frightening was that the black hair that was blocking the various drains were all connected to the arm. Sally plucked out all the black hairs. The entire bathroom had an abnormally comfortable, unclogged feeling. The black hair that was blocking the drain was all pulled out, and the water that had accumulated in the bathroom was all drained. The strange dripping sound also came to an abrupt end. Sizzle! At this moment, the arm that was pulled out and most of the hair evaporated, leaving behind only a small tuft of blood-stained black hair. Obtained clue item. Blood-stained black hair. Remark. When enough clues are collected, important events in this building can be unlocked under a fixed difficulty. Not only was Sally not afraid of the dangerous encounter just now, she even grabbed the strange black hair and jumped up in excitement. Yay! If this is the case, Nicholas will definitely praise me. At this moment, woof woof woof, a series of intense barking sounds could be heard. That blood descendant! Sally still remembered Han Dong's instructions. She quickly put the black hair into her pocket and rushed over to help as quickly as possible. The moment she rushed into the master bedroom, Sally accidentally caught a glimpse of a woman in white standing in the corner. When she wanted to take a closer look, the woman had already disappeared. Considering the danger that Count was in, Sally quickly climbed into the pitch-black attic through the wardrobe. With the help of the black goat's night vision, she could barely see the situation here. The attic was filled with large abandoned cardboard boxes. Count was tearing at one of the cardboard boxes, but unfortunately, there was nothing inside. The blood descendant's body had been corroded with many small black holes. Miss Sally, be careful. Something is playing a game of hide and seek with me. It's hiding in one of the cardboard boxes. If you choose the wrong cardboard box, you'll be corroded. I've already eliminated 3 of them, so there are 5 left. Just as Count finished speaking, a child's laughter echoed in the attic. It was impossible to determine the location through the sound. Can't you open all the cardboard boxes in one go? No. Otherwise, all the cardboard boxes will be reset. Sally observed for a while and came up with a solution. Breeding, living half-goat half-human beings kept crawling out of Sally's body. Although they looked like babies, they could perform normal functions. They relied on them to open the cardboard boxes. Sizzle! Just as Count said, if the wrong cardboard box was chosen, an extremely corrosive black gas would overflow from the inside, and the newborn body would immediately turn into a pool of black water. Soon, she found the little boy hiding in the cardboard box. She took out a lollipop from her mouth and disappeared into thin air. Obtained clue item, lollipop. Thank you, Miss Sally. Count thanked her while licking his wounds. Since there's nothing in the attic, you should go find Nicholas. If you get close to him, you should be able to absorb his blood energy and recover quickly. The Count couldn't help but wag his tail when he saw that the famous fourth origin substance was actually concerned about him. It was also because of this excitement that the Count recalled an important detail that he had captured while searching the attic. There was a gap in a corner that looked like a secret door. After comparing the area of the house and the attic, the latter seemed to be missing a part. Miss Sally, wait a moment. Count temporarily forgot the pain of his wounds and bumped into the wooden plank that looked like a secret door. A separate compartment covered with talismans and lit with candles appeared. It was the safe house. Chapter 1522. When Count and Sally found the third clue in the attic and found information about the safe house, Han Dong, who obtained the hanging rope, had returned to the first floor of the villa and was conducting a detailed search of the smelly old man's house and the kitchen. The tatami that was once used for the old man's rest emitted a strong stench. Strangely, when Han Dong tried to lift the quilt on the surface of the tatami, there was no dirt inside. Although the quilt itself had some stains, it shouldn't have emitted such a foul stench. Magic Eye Han Dong had spent 30 points to remove the restriction of this ability a few days ago. However, the Magic Eye in the Day of the Ladybug seemed to be more useless. Not to mention that the magic eye itself was suppressed back to the basic level, but due to the restrictions of the ladybug game, the area vision was also disabled. It was limited to detailed observation and the improvement of dynamic vision. However, because the G-virus and the zombie bloodline dominated, the magic eye could also be integrated into it. It was more efficient and could play a miraculous role in battle. Under the observation of the magic eye, the outline of a human body that was left behind in the tatami unexpectedly corresponded to the old man who used to sleep here. The foul stench seemed to be emitted from the outline. Since there was no more discovery, Han Dong got up and went to the kitchen area. The lights flickered. In the dim kitchen, there were obvious bloodstains left between the chopping board and the sink, as well as the remnants of skin with hair. Han Dong also noticed that the old fridge was still working normally. Creak. Opening the cabinet door, the cold storage room was filled with black plastic bags filled with unknown substances. Because it had been frozen for a long time, the smell was basically suppressed, and there were many black ice crystals in the refrigerator. Compared to the old man's house just now, the smell here was nothing. Han Dong didn't even need to open the box to guess what was inside. Will there be clues similar to the hanging rope in here? Just as Han Dong reached out and was about to interact with the black garbage bag, a series of footsteps came from upstairs, and at the same time it was Count's voice. Nicholas, this Count has found the safe house and also found important clues. Now, do you need this Count to come down and help, or do you want to come up and take a look at the safe house first? All right. I'll be right there. Just wait up there. Just as Han Dong tilted his head to respond to Count, a black plastic bag in the deepest part of the fridge moved. There was also a tongue that pierced the plastic bag but quickly retracted it. At this moment, an uneasy feeling swept through his body. It even stimulated Han Dong's body, triggering some of the characteristics of mutated zombies. Lines that looked like living worms were swimming under his skin. Oh no! It's completely random. Han Dong immediately looked at the bracelet. The number of ladybugs displayed on the screen had changed from 1 to 3. After these days of in-depth understanding of the ladybug game, the number 3 was the dividing line. Once this level of difficulty was reached, the overall level of chaos in the game could threaten any assassin, and Han Dong was no exception. His vision returned to the fridge. The black plastic bags that had been piled up inside had all disappeared without a trace. Realizing that something was wrong, Han Dong quickly left the kitchen and tried to meet up with his teammates on the second floor. Due to the structure of the villa, he had to go back the way he came. That was the kitchen, the old man's room, the living room, the porch, and then the stairs in front of the porch reached the second floor. Just as he stepped out of the kitchen, the situation in the old man's room in front of him stunned Han Dong. The tatami bedding room, which was previously empty, bulged high, but it was filled with something. It continued to bulge while squirming. The pungent stench was stronger than before. As the bedding bulged to a certain height, the interior of the bedding could be seen through the gap. The objects piled up inside were the black plastic bags that had disappeared in the fridge. The thawed plastic bags had all been opened, and the meat hidden inside was slowly gathering. It was also at this moment. A dark tongue stretched out from the bedding. Then, an old woman's face full of wrinkles was revealed. The empty eye sockets were crescent-shaped, and she squeezed out a chilling smile. She looked at Han Dong. Just as Han Dong tried to bypass the old man's room, the bedding was suddenly lifted. The haphazardly pieced together black old woman revealed her true form, and the head that was pieced together in her abdomen was chanting some kind of Japanese language. Then, a burst of black smoke rose from Han Dong's body. Hiss! A series of densely packed small holes appeared on his arms and abdomen, and disgusting pus kept flowing out. Curse? Han Dong knew very well that the source of the curse was the black old woman. If he didn't kill her, the curse would continue to exist. Before the curse spread throughout his body, Han Dong made a decision to reveal his killing intent. He took a deep breath, and wisps of blood-red breath exhaled from under the steel mask. The fresh smell of blood faintly suppressed the stench in the room. Since he wanted to kill, he had to kill with one move. Gurgle gurgle, the suppressed blood from his right arm was sent to the chainsaw's engine. Rumble. The saw rotated, and streaks of blood covered the saw blade. At the same time, his arms turned into zombies. Muscles grew, pale and covered with squirming blood vessels, and even an eye grew at the end of his arm. Let me give you something more. In order to ensure a fatal blow, gray tentacles drilled out of his arm and fused with the chainsaw. This was a trick that Han Dong tried not long ago. Vikuza's flesh device, a chainsaw from the Hell-subordinate world, is also a kind of semi-living equipment that can accommodate the characteristics of tentacles. Gray tentacles were neatly arranged on the saw's surface. The attack will have a pollution attribute, which can cause great damage to the spirit body. Die. The following is a harmonious picture. A chef who didn't want to be named accidentally found that all the pork in the freezer had gone bad and turned black. In order not to let the black-hearted merchant continue to use it, he took out a meat shredder and decided to completely destroy the bad black meat and throw it away. Sizzle. Who knows, the meat shredder malfunctioned during use, and the smashed pork splashed around, and the smell of bad meat filled the entire kitchen, causing him to be scolded by the chef and almost lose his job. Done. As Han Dong took back the chainsaw, he wiped the sweat from his forehead. Facing the messy old woman's room, Han Dong showed a gratified smile. It seems that he got a great sense of satisfaction in the process of handling the meat. At the same time the curse was lifted, the smell in the room also dissipated a lot. With the complete death of the black old woman, the meat that was used to exchange pointers also evaporated and dissipated, leaving a black jade pendant on the bed. Obtained clue item, black jade pendant, but a strange sound came from the TV in the living room next door. Chapter 1523. Although the process of cutting the meat made Han Dong feel good to the bone, but the sense of crisis from the environment was still there. Han Dong was also very clear about his current purpose, to go to the second floor to meet with his teammates. He took back the chainsaw and put it back on his back. Sizzle! The static noise from the TV next door suddenly rose to the maximum. It even made Han Dong's eardrum hurt as if it was poked by a sharp needle. While quickly plugging his ears, he also split 2 small meatballs and stuffed them into his ears. He opened the paper door between the old man's room and the living room. At this moment, the static of the TV stopped abruptly. The static that covered the TV also disappeared and was replaced by a strange picture. An ancient well was located in the middle of a forest open space full of fallen leaves. Ring! Han Dong, even as a biology professor, had heard of this famous horror movie. It was rumored that when this movie was released, many viewers were scared to death. The ancient well used as the shooting location was once a famous scenic spot. After the movie was released, no one cared about this scenic spot. Even the locals who lived here moved away, so the place was completely abandoned. The most terrifying scene in the movie was the process of Sadako climbing from the TV screen to reality through the cursed videotape. Currently, Han Dong was about to face this scene. For a time, Han Dong even suspected that the senior management of the Ladybug world seemed to have access to various works adapted from small and medium-sized world. It's here. A pale arm stretched out from the well. The picture flashed, and the woman with black hair had half of her body crawled out of the well. During the TV broadcast, Han Dong, who was a viewer, was also subjected to a kind of curse restraint. He was restrained in place and couldn't move. His eyelids were forced open by an invisible force and couldn't be closed. Han Dong had to watch the whole process. Suddenly, Count's urgent voice came from the second floor. "Nicholas, what are you doing? Hurry up. There's something wrong on the second floor." Han Dong, who was restrained in place, asked calmly, Count, where is the safe house? Deep in the attic. Okay, you and Sally hide inside first. Don't worry about me. I'll be back soon. Watching the horrifying scene on the television, he could feel the curse binding him. Not only was Han Dong not flustered, he even had a perverted smile on his face. Due to the influence of Ring, there were many secondary creations based on the movie among the people, and some interesting topics were even derived. If Sadako was climbing out of your TV, what would you do? The netizens gave many interesting answers, such as sticking the two TVs together or placing the TV directly in the window, etc. Now, this topic had become a reality, and it was happening right in front of Han Dong's eyes. It might be very dangerous, but in the face of such an interesting opportunity, how could Han Dong miss it? When he first saw the ancient well on the TV screen, his crazy attribute was triggered, and he had already conceived a rather interesting idea in his mind. Buzz, buzz, buzz. When there was signal interference on the TV, the woman crawling out of the well would get closer. Han Dong was also getting more and more excited, and he continued to pretend that he was trapped in place. Come on. Buzz. Another wave of signal interference. A pale right hand completely went through the screen and appeared as a physical body. The fingernail-less palm gently fell to the ground. Due to being soaked for too long, the flesh of the fingernails showed a dense meaty structure. Snap! The second hand also reached out. With both hands as support, the woman's head slowly and painstakingly reached out as if breaking through a membrane. A white eyeball that was completely soaked and almost popped out of the eye socket could be vaguely seen in the hair. However, Han Dong had been waiting for this moment. The head just went through the TV, but the body is still inside. Han Dong took out something that he had just obtained not long ago from his waist. Hang the rope. Although it was a clue prop, when Han Dong touched the rope, he could feel a sense of restraint. It might be interesting to use it to deal with spirits. Moreover, this rope also came from this haunted house. If it was used to deal with spirits in the haunted house, it might have an unexpected, chemical effect. Snap! The rope was wrapped around his neck, strangling him tightly. Come out! Han Dong grabbed the other end of the white rope and activated the G-virus. At the same time, his muscles expanded and he forcefully pulled outward. Ka-ka-ka! The sound of the TV being destroyed echoed throughout the house. The body of the woman who was forcibly pulled out was dislocated and merged with the broken TV, similar to a bug in a game. The TV cable and transistors penetrated the woman's body, and at the same time, it was filled with glass shards. However, Han Dong did not care how pitiful she was. He dragged her to the crooked tree as fast as he could and tied the rope back to the original position. Just like that. The woman who just climbed out of the TV was hung alive just like that. Just as Han Dong guessed, the restraint of the hanging rope was really useful. The poor evil spirit could not break free at all. No matter how she struggled, it was useless. However, what happened next was beyond imagination. The evil spirit who was forced to hang no longer struggled. The body gradually turned from a physical body to a spirit body, and was sucked into the crooked tree along the hanging rope. It even turned into nutrient. Huh? Han Dong was shocked. He quickly withdrew the hanging rope and took a full 10 steps back. He examined the strange crooked tree with his demon eye. Due to the restriction, he could not see through its essence. I didn't notice this thing at first. The real danger is not the rope, but the tree? Han Dong first retreated into the haunted house. The situation of the crooked tree would be investigated later. He returned to the entrance of the first floor from the entrance and stepped on the stairs to the second floor. Similar to the situation that Count encountered before, the colorful balls kept rolling down the stairs. However, this time, the number was not one, but dozens of balls. When approaching, the balls turned into terrifying heads, trying to use the black hair that grew out of their mouths to restrict Han Dong's movements and then slowly eat him. Looking at the ball head in front of him, Han Dong immediately took off the chainsaw. He heard the roar of the engine in the corridor. The next scene was similar to putting fresh tomatoes into a juicer. Cleaning completed, Han Dong, who was covered in tomato juice, stepped on the stairs. Splash! He just happened to step on a pool of cold water. Taking a closer look, the water came from the bathroom next to him. The bathroom door was slightly open, and a long pale leg was hanging in the air. Han Dong had no intention to stay and immediately ran to the master bedroom. During this time, he continued to see hair seeping out from the cracks in the wall. The middle-aged man was scratching his ears and cheeks in the secondary bedroom. When he opened the wardrobe, there was a pale little boy squatting in it. When he reached out his hand, he directly left a corrosive mark on Han Dong's body. The sound of neck turning constantly came from the attic. A terrifying woman was crawling in the dark. Han Dong did not want to continue fighting and rushed to the safe house, with the candlelight overflowing from it. He rushed to the wooden door of the safe house before another famous woman in horror movies arrived. Just 3 ladybugs have so many evil spirits? What will the next 2 difficulties be like? Chapter 1524. Large and small white candles burned here, and the candlelight filled the entire secret room. The seemingly weak wooden walls were covered with faintly glowing talismans. The moment Han Dong stepped into the safe house, his slightly nervous mood and sense of danger dissipated at the same time. The remaining curse corrosion on the surface of his body also slowly recovered under the candlelight. In addition, the safe house also had a very eye-catching device, which was similar to an empty shrine. There were 4 completely different black candles on the top of the shrine, and 2 of them were lit. Nicholas, did you collect any clues? Count found an important clue in the attic, and based on careful observation, he decisively analyzed that the safe house is located in the attic. Count raised his head and quietly waited for the praise he deserved. Unfortunately, Han Dong's attention was attracted by the empty shrine. What is the use of this shrine? Sally immediately added, "That's right. We have already tested it. Once a clue item is placed in it, it will be automatically absorbed by the shrine. Every time an item is used, one of the black candles on the shrine will light up correspondingly. Count and I have each found a clue item. Do you have one here? Good luck. I just collected 2 clues here. I don't know what will happen when all the black candles on the shrine are lit up." So far, the clue items were as follows: hanging rope, black jade pendant, blood-stained black hair, and lollipop. As Han Dong put the rope and the jade pendant into the shrine, they immediately disintegrated in the form of light spots. The remaining 2 black candles slowly burned into a gloomy flame. As all 4 black candles were lit up, their burning speed increased exponentially. Even the bright candlelight was temporarily suppressed. When the black candles were completely burned out, the light was restored. There was a diary in the shrine that was emitting black smoke. Is this the key item that can lead to the box of resentment? When Han Dong reached out to touch the diary, he immediately received a related system notification. Key clue, cursed diary. This clue is only available when the number of ladybugs equals 4. After successfully activating the clue, the haunted house will return to its pastime, and the individual might find information related to the box of resentment during that period of time. Once upon a time? Was it referring to the time when it first became a haunted house, or when? Could it be directly related to that crooked tree? This diary should be able to help us get to the bottom of this haunted house. The reason for its formation should be related to the box of resentment, or rather, every haunted house here is related to it. This way, no matter which haunted house we go to, the final result will point to the box. This is in line with the nature of fairness and progression. Han Dong's first suspicion was the crooked tree. After all, it could even absorb an evil spirit under 3 difficulty. The difficulty of this special event is truly terrifying. Under the condition that the number of ladybugs equals 4, there was a chance to obtain information about the box of grudge through the cursed diary. If he wanted to obtain the box of resentment, did he need to have 5 ladybugs? What was the setting of the safe house? Let's not delve too deeply into it for now. Let's deal with the diary first. Nicholas, what are we going to do now? Since we have all the clues and received clear instructions, there's no need to go out for a walk. If the number of ladybugs reaches 5 in the next change, staying outside might be life-threatening. When the number of ladybugs reaches 4, we'll go out directly. Okay. Sally was quite satisfied to be able to stay in the same room with Han Dong. Of course, Count was a bit of an eyesore. Count, you should also take a break. Thank you for finding the safe house. The Count wagged his tail and reluctantly accepted the praise after a long pause. In that case, I, Count, will not disturb you and Miss Sally. The blood that represented Count separated from the arm and returned to Han Dong's body. Without Count's control, the arm returned to its original state and hung on Han Dong's back together with the chainsaw. Sally, how do you feel in the Destiny dimension? It's fun. It's completely different from our world. There are a lot of things I've never seen before. Various creatures follow their own set of development rules. This kind of level suppression game was not very fun at first, but the more I play, the more interesting it is. The sense of crisis is endless, and I can experience the rapid growth. I like it. That's good. I'll take you to play something else in the future. Okay. By the way, you said you'll take me to watch a movie. Remember to come with me. Okay. However, not long after the two started to be alone, the bracelet vibrated, and the display panel of the bracelet began a countdown of 1 minute. According to the rules of the game, such a reminder would only be given when the highest difficulty level was about to arrive. 5 is coming. Fortunately, we didn't go out. Han Dong and Sally were a little nervous. They had played many games, and they had never encountered the number of ladybugs of 5. This was a special game that was even more dangerous. Even with the safe house setting, they still felt uneasy. It's coming. The moment the countdown ended, several talismans stuck to the safe house detached themselves, and the candlelight was gradually suppressed and flickered. However, the overall situation was still stable. What's this wailing sound? Han Dong pressed his ear to the surface of the wooden door. Due to the excellent isolation effect of the safe house, he could only vaguely hear a strange wailing sound. There was a high probability that it was not man-made. Thud. Suddenly, a series of leather footsteps came, ignoring the isolation effect of the safe house. It was loud and heavy, and it even made Han Dong's eardrums tingle. Leather footsteps? Han Dong quickly moved his ear away from the door and stepped back to stand with Sally. The other party was wandering around the haunted house. Every time the leather footsteps sounded, there was a feeling of stepping on the surface of Han Dong's heart. Its existence made all evil spirits retreat. Sally also gently grabbed Han Dong's arm. Wool drilled out from her pores and stood up. Nicholas, if we encounter this thing, we might really die. What a strong sense of oppression. While Han Dong felt the oppression, there was also a kind of excitement. The madness in his body kept surging, and it even urged Han Dong to open the door to see the situation outside. Of course, he could not do such a stupid thing. Slowly, through the sound of leather footsteps, he could tell that the other party had left the haunted house and was walking on the street of the activity area. It's not a unique product of this haunted house, but the ultimate evil spirit of the entire activity area? Waiting. The number of ladybugs equals 5. He lasted for a full 2 hours. Every assassin hiding in the safe house was in a state of high tension. Han Dong could not help but be puzzled. It lasts for so long? Is it random, or did the system specifically give it a longer time? 5. The difficulty changed. Sally, let's go. 2 is not enough to threaten us. Let's go to a more suspicious area and wait for 4 to come. They left the safe house and went to the crooked tree on the first floor. When the number of ladybugs was 2, the evil spirit would only move in a fixed area. As long as they did not get close, they would not be attacked. At the same time, there were also some inherent curses set on the building. Triggering the curse would attract the evil spirit. For example, putting a videotape into a TV or putting a toy back into a storage box, etc. When the 2 arrived at the courtyard on the first floor, there was a long-haired woman waving at them from the window on the second floor. Chapter 1525. Black Shell Street. In a luxurious European-style villa, the safe house was located in an underground wine cellar. The assassin team hiding here was the real competitor, the traveler of fate from another superworld. Their overall progress was the same as Han Dong's. They had collected 4 clues and exchanged them for the key item, Watson Family Tree. The usage condition was limited to the number of ladybugs equals 4. Right now, they also heard the sound of heavy leather shoes stepping on the surface of their hearts. Boss, this thing is so strong. It's not at the same level as the monsters we have encountered so far. Should we go out and kill it now? Maybe the box of resentment is hidden on it. The strange man with copper coins on his body wanted to move. The cold end of the folding fan gently knocked on his shoulder, and some kind of artistic conception was transmitted through the folding fan, forcibly restraining his anger. Dongye, just stay here obediently. Even if we can kill the thing wandering outside, we will have to pay a great price and even use up all our cards. Before many things are clear, it's too early to use the number of ladybugs equals 5. First, we need to deal with the situation in this haunted house. While waiting for the number of ladybugs to change, Dongyi was too bored, so he pulled off the copper coins hanging on his skin many times and hid in the corner alone to play a game of heads and tails. The other team member, of forbidden words, used the iron hammer he carried with him to hit the iron nails on different parts of his body. It was like the melody of a nursery rhyme. Only the handsome man called Boss didn't move at all. He was in a meditative state. 5-2, just 2 hours? The most difficult stage lasted for such a long time. There really is a secret hidden in it. It's long enough for us to explore the secret. When the 3 returned to the magnificent villa hall, a little girl with bulging veins all over her body crawled quickly toward them with her back facing down. Before the crazed Dongyi could make his move, ding! A nail comparable to the speed of a bullet instantly penetrated the little girl's head, and the flesh that was slightly pulled out quickly turned into a pool of blood. The camera cut back to the original scene. In the yard of the Japanese-style villa. Under 2, the evil spirits in the haunted house were limited to a fixed area. The overgrown courtyard was a safe zone, or rather, the evil spirits didn't dare to come close. Han Dong turned to look at the window on the second floor. A girl dressed in a high school uniform with long hair covering her face was waving her hand slowly in a strange manner. This was very similar to the scenes in some horror movies. It was used to create psychological fear and gradually erode the psychological defenses of others. However, Han Dong abandoned his prejudices and fears and seriously tried to understand what the other party was trying to convey. The other party seemed to really want Han Dong to go upstairs and talk to him alone. I didn't sense any direct danger. Of course, it could also be a disguise or it could be a trap. Let's give it a try. Maybe we can find some clues. He let Sally continue to stay in the courtyard. Han Dong didn't return to the second floor along the original path. Instead, he used the transformation of his zombie body to jump directly. Grabbing the edge of the windowsill with one hand, he easily flipped in. Count, do you smell anything dangerous? Not at the moment. You should be right. That's good. This was an independent study that was locked the whole time. Han Dong had enough clues before, so when he passed by the second floor, he didn't pay much attention to it or check it out. As Han Dong flipped into the study, the girl who was originally leaning against the window also slowly turned her body without making any sound. It was as if she didn't have any bones at all. This image of a girl with black hair covering her face was the result of a clever combination of the concept of the uncanny valley and the concept of fear. It proved to be very effective in horror movies. "What's the matter?" Facing Han Dong's question, the girl didn't seem to be able to answer it personally. She just slowly stretched out her soft arm and tried to point at the crooked tree in the courtyard. Then she started to shake her head in a strange way. The frequency of shaking increased as time passed, until the whole head was torn apart and fell to the ground with the skin and flesh. Ordinary people would probably be scared away. Han Dong maintained a kind smile throughout the whole process. He bent down and picked up the head that rolled in front of him and connected it to the neck. Because of the intimate interaction with the head, Han Dong also happened to discover the reason why the girl couldn't speak. Her mouth was completely sealed by a stapler, and dozens of staples pierced through her mouth. "Do you need me to help you remove these staples?" After receiving a nod from the girl, Han Dong carefully removed all the staples. Because her mouth had been sealed for a long time, a large part of the inside had festered, and a large part of her tongue was missing. Her words were intermittent and difficult to hear clearly. "Tree everyone. I can't, be careful of the curse." Speaking of this, the girl seemed to be afraid of something when she said this, and her head and body disappeared. According to the root cause of the formation of the haunted house, is it this tree? Since there's nothing else, let's go deeper and confirm it. Han Dong began to play more tricks under the condition of difficulty, too. He deliberately activated various curses in the haunted house. For example, he burned the red high heels in the shoe-changing area. He took the initiative to wear a blood-stained kimono. He picked up the ball that had turned into a head. He drank the eyeball drink in the kitchen. Just like that, the entire haunted house became lively. Behind Han Dong was a group of residents who had died tragically in this place. Their postures were strange. However, when Han Dong passed through the living room and came to the courtyard where the crooked tree was, the group of evil spirits stopped and even took the initiative to remove the curse connection. "Nicholas, what are you playing? It looks so interesting, I want to play." "I haven't played yet. It's still quite dangerous." As expected, all the evil spirits in the haunted house are afraid of this tree. "I really want to see what's so special about this tree. Bear with it for a while, there will be a chance to learn more about it soon." He didn't disappoint Han Dong's expectations. The next change in difficulty happened to be from O2 to O4. This way, all the difficulties would be cycled once. When the bracelet showed 4 ladybugs, a thick resentment rose from the ground, and the black barrier that filled the streets began to envelop the entire haunted house. The evil spirits that were originally wandering in the haunted house retreated. Black vines grew out from the ground and stuck close to the building. It felt like they were about to give birth to some kind of horrifying existence. Han Dong ignored the pressure brought by the change in scenery and flipped open the cursed diary. Current number of ladybugs equals 4. The restriction on the cursed diary has been removed. Key item has merged with the setting. In the blink of an eye. The scene before Han Dong and Shally changed at the same time, and they returned to a time in the past. The two were standing outside the mansion, and there was a sign on the door that read Zhuo Bo family. This is. Han Dong was suddenly reminded of the similar scene in the movie Ju-on. At the same time, he looked at the characters that corresponded to him and Shally. He had become a middle-aged man with a beer belly and stubble, while Sally had become a woman with a rather frightening appearance. Between the two of them, there was an introverted little boy. Han Dong couldn't control his body, so he could only observe and feel from the first-person perspective. Through the diary, we're experiencing the life of the first family head? Han Dong had a very bad feeling. Chapter 1526. Act 1. Neighbors. The opening of the cursed diary recorded the first family to move into a Japanese-style villa. It borrowed heavily from Juon's plot. It was written from the first-person perspective. Han Dong was the owner of the house, Toshio Zubo, and Sally was his wife, Kayako. Together, they raised their 5-year-old son, Toshio Zubo. However, the source of all the resentment was not because Kayako was obsessed with her old classmate and was discovered by her suspicious husband. Instead, it was because of something else. Here, Toshio Zubo and Kayako were very loving. There was no suspicion at all. Even the diary that Kayako wrote was just a record of her happy life. It was very different from the original movie. Furthermore, there was a very important detail that shocked Han Dong to the core. There was no crooked tree in the earliest courtyard? Han Dong was surprised to discover that the earliest courtyard only had some flowers and grass. There was no crooked tree that looked decades or even centuries old. So, when did this tree come into existence? Then, Han Dong and Sally observed the happy life of the couple from the first-person perspective. However, this happiness did not last long because an important turning point arrived. Several days passed, and Toshio Zubo's house welcomed a visitor who claimed to be their neighbor. Strangely enough, Han Dong could not see the other party's appearance from the first-person perspective. His upper body was completely covered by the black miasma, and the bottom of his white trousers corresponded to the large and exquisite black leather shoes. This is... Han Dong immediately thought of the heavy leather shoes that he had heard at the safe house. For now, he did not make too many deductions and continued to observe. The mysterious neighbor claimed to be the manager of a botanical garden. Today, he brought a sapling that he had carefully cultivated as a gift. He said that Toshio Zubo's house was relatively open, and it was very suitable for planting a tree. During the conversation, wisps of black miasma were sucked into Toshio Zubo's body, and he gladly accepted the suggestion. Just like that, the mysterious neighbor left without entering the house. Toshio Zubo did not discuss it with his wife and immediately placed the sapling into the courtyard. At the same time, he showed a satisfied expression. Something strange happened. The next morning, when the couple woke up in the master bedroom, they did not feel the familiar sunlight. The window was covered by dense leaves. However, the two of them did not find it strange. They seemed to have accepted the existence of this tree in their minds. Ever since the leaves blocked the sunlight, the whole family had become strange. From Han Dong's perspective, Takao Zubo became irritable and irritable. He even woke up in the middle of the night to steal raw meat from the fridge. From Sally's perspective, Kayako began to write some strange things in her diary, revealing her affection for various members of the opposite sex and her disgust for her husband. As for their child, Toshio, he began to enjoy playing in the attic. There was even one time when he was caught eating a live mouse in the attic. He had also hung himself under a crooked tree. The final ending was the same as in The Grudge. Kayako was brutally murdered by her husband and hidden in a wooden box in the attic. Toshio, who was playing in the attic, also happened to see this scene and was not spared. After completing all of this, Zubo Gongxiong found a white rope and hung himself from the crooked tree. Han Dong and Sally's perspective slowly moved away from the body as the main body died. They looked down at this Japanese-styled mansion. Then, something strange happened. Wisps of resentment floated out from the attic. These wisps of resentment wanted to envelop and permeate this building, turning it into a haunted house and cursing everyone who came here. However, an irresistible force forced the wisps of resentment to flow toward the crooked tree and be stored there. At this moment, the mysterious neighbor visited again. He gently broke off a branch that was filled with resentment and left happily. This guy is using this method to collect the resentment in people's hearts? Then, the diary entered the next part. Act 2. Residents. This part of the diary described the many residents who moved into this haunted house. First, there was a lonely old lady. After she provided a large sum of money, the nursing home arranged for her to move into this mansion alone. Every day there would be professional caregivers coming to take care of her. Due to her serious foot injury, the old lady basically had to live in her bed and was taken care of by an honest-looking caregiver. They knew each other from the nursing home, and the old lady would give the caregiver a large amount of tips in private. They had a good relationship. After they moved in, both of their personalities changed. The old lady became moody and would often do things that no one could understand. The caregiver had already come up with many murderous plans in his mind. Finally, one day, he treated the old lady like a piece of pork and placed her in a black plastic bag in the fridge. After that, he hanged himself from the crooked tree. Then, there was a young couple who came here after winning a free travel ticket. The young and beautiful woman had waist-length black hair. In the end, her hair was pulled out by her boyfriend in the bathroom and she was choked to death. The boyfriend also chose to hang himself from the crooked tree. Then, there was a rather dramatic scene. Due to the strange deaths of many residents, this Japanese-styled mansion became quite famous in the neighborhood. A poor person came to seek shelter at the haunted house with a cursed tape. In the middle of the night, the young man was actually playing the tape in a sleepwalking state. When he woke up, he was bound and could only stare at the TV screen, feeling the fear before death. Who knew? When the evil spirit just climbed out of the TV, it seemed to perceive something even more terrible. It immediately retracted back into the TV and jumped back into the well. The young man who was about to rejoice at surviving the disaster accidentally caught a glimpse of the rope hanging on the crooked tree. He quickly put it around his neck. All in all, there were a total of 9 people who died in this mansion. The perpetrators who were bewitched by the trees would eventually choose to hang themselves. The resentment of the residents who were killed in the haunted house would be absorbed into the trees and eventually collected by the mysterious neighbor. Seeing this, Han Dong could also make a deduction. The neighbor who caused all this is most likely the mysterious craftsman mentioned in the event introduction. He is also the key person who created the item box of resentment. He should have sent greeting gifts to all the residents on the street. In this way, he regularly collected the most primitive resentment from the human heart as the raw material for the box. Could it be that, if I want to find the box of resentment, I have to face this person when the number of ladybugs is equal to 5? Just when Han Dong thought of this, the memory triggered by the diary stopped abruptly. Once again returned to the courtyard area filled with black miasma. The strange scene that came into view made Han Dong tremble and take a step back. The huge crooked tree was full of fruits. The hanged people that he saw in his memory were neatly hanging on the branches. They all showed a sickly exaggerated smile and kept waving, hoping that Han Dong and Sally would join them. The system prompt came immediately. Frowny face. The sharing of Cursed Diary has been completed. You have become the new owner of this mansion. Please completely destroy the crooked tree when the number of ladybugs is equal to 4. Once destroyed, you will obtain important clues to the ultimate goal of this event and may become the final winner. Chapter 1527. He stared at the crooked tree that was full of hanging fruits, as well as the arm-like tree roots that kept burrowing out of the ground. Han Dong did not panic, and he did not take any defensive actions for the time being. He was in the middle of an important and rapid thinking process. I have to destroy this tree at a fixed time? Once the number of ladybugs changes, the scene will disappear. If I want to wait for the next difficulty, there will be many uncontrollable factors, and I will also waste a lot of time. In this case, the battle cannot stay on the surface. I have to take the initiative to take the risk. Thinking of this, Han Dong pulled Sally to his side. Sally, I have an important task for you. Since time is limited, I will cut the trunk directly. If I do that, the tree will attack me crazily. During the cutting process, I need you and Count to protect me and minimize the damage." Sally nodded as she took out 10 arrows from her bag. She shot them consecutively and hit the hanging fruits with headshot. Ah! The hanging fruits that had their heads pierced through let out a horrifying scream. This immediately attracted the crooked tree's attention, and the nearby tree roots locked onto Sally. "Go!" "Okay." Taking this opportunity, Han Dong ran to the trunk at full speed. Whoosh! Blood-red gas kept coming out of the mask. The Lester caretaker's arm was also connected to his shoulder blade in the form of a third hand, which looked like a blood dog. "Count, when I am cutting the trunk, you are responsible for guarding behind me. I will do my best, but I still need Miss Sally's help. With this arm, Count can't use all his strength. Sally, she'll come. As long as you do a good job, I'll find a way to get a higher quality, fleshly vehicle. Damn, why don't you just give me your body? Hurry up." The trunk was so thick that 4 people could hug it together. Zombification G1. The skin became pale and hardened. At the same time, he focused on the deformation of the right arm. As the whole body became bigger and thicker, layers of hardened tissue formed on the surface of the arm. The iconic GI opened from the upper arm, and combined with the characteristics of the magic eye, he observed the trunk. Strands of dark red tree veins that symbolized resentment were moving inside the trunk. At the same time, he could vaguely see a structure similar to a heart beating deep inside. Here it is. Blood flow. He pulled the chainsaw's engine. Buzz, buzz. The moment the chainsaw blade cut into the trunk, thick, stinky, and black juice sprayed out. It even cut the main arteries. However, no matter how much stinky juice was sprayed on Han Dong's body, it did not slow down. No matter how strong the trunk was, it could not resist the chainsaw cut. A chainsaw. Of course, the cutting speed was not very fast and required a certain amount of time. Screams of men, women, old and young resounded in the courtyard. The tree roots that were besieging Sally all changed their target. The dead hung on the branches with their heads pierced through by arrows. They glared at Han Dong. Some of them even sprouted branches and vines from their limbs and shot them at Han Dong. Whoosh! Dog heads bit. The first batch of branches that came were all torn apart by Count. As the number of branches increased, the sharp or acidic branches caused all kinds of holes and damage to Count's mouth. At this moment, something more dangerous happened. Fruit ripened. Strands of dark red resentment essence flowed into the hanged people's bodies. They pulled out the arrows from their foreheads, released themselves from the hanging state, and separated from the branches. They attacked Han Dong in all kinds of twisted forms. "Nicholas, I can't block so many things. Hurry up and stop cutting. Take care of this group of evil spirits first." In the face of Count's advice, Han Dong had no intention to stop cutting. It was a critical moment. A black shadow that had just completed its transformation fell from the sky. Thud! The heavy goat's hooves were directly crushed by a crawling hanged person. Body unsealed, stage 1. At this time, Sally had transformed into a goat form similar to a centaur. Her upper body was still in human form, and she had the iconic goat horns. Her lower body turned into a goat's body. The soft black wool fluttered in the wind, and the goat's hooves stepped heavily on the ground. The purple tentacles that symbolized the hybrid demons were scattered in different parts of her body. Smelling the familiar sound and feeling the heavy goat's hooves trampling, Han Dong showed a gratified smile. At the same time, he ordered, "Count, assist Miss Sally. I'll leave the situation behind me to you. I still need some time here." The current cutting length had reached 10 centimeters. Through the cut, he could vaguely see the internal structure of the trunk. Among the densely distributed veins, a black heart with a human face was beating wildly. He still needed to cut a bigger gap to get inside. Suddenly, whoosh! A tree root that was as sharp as a dagger slashed across Han Dong's waist. Some kind of corrosive curse quickly invaded his body through the cut. Immediately after, several tree roots attacked from different directions, cutting or stabbing into his skin. Black pus kept flowing out of the wound, and a sense of numbness and weakness spread throughout his body, due to the life threat brought about by the chainsaw cutting. The crooked tree began to consume its life force to activate all the branches to attack. The number of tree roots attacking at the same time had reached nearly 1,000, and there was a continuous stream of hangers, ripening and falling off. Under such circumstances, it was quite good that only a few branches could affect Han Dong. Whoosh! A wisp of blood with the smell of the black forest splashed onto Han Dong's face. The situation was not good. Sally! Han Dong furrowed his brows. He stopped cutting and put the chainsaw back to his back. He did not turn around to help Sally. Instead, he prepared to enter the next stage in advance. Let me see the true potential of the G-virus. He took the initiative to remove a part of the G-virus's restraint. The effect would affect the whole body. If the current arm distortion, hardening of the skin, and the formation of the GI belonged to the G1 stage, then Han Dong would enter the G2 stage next. The G form could be infinitely deepened, but the corresponding risk was also higher. The G virus that spread throughout the body was activating and transforming every cell. Whitening. While the skin all over the body was further whitening and hardening, the black hair was all dyed white. Large columnar proliferative tissues grew at the end of the arms, symbolizing the further improvement of the strength. An extremely sturdy tapered claw replaced the original nail structure and grew from the end of the fingers. G2 stage, white tyrant snap. His hands clasped the sawed-open crack in the trunk and pulled with all his strength to the left and right. Ah! As Han Dong roared, more pillar-like appendages grew out of his arms, giving him even more power. The longitudinal crack that was torn by the chainsaw was torn open, revealing a tree hole that led to the inside. Whoosh! 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 The claws waved and tore open the vein-like tree veins. I've finally caught you! What the hell are you? His 5 fingers clasped the human-faced heart in the deepest part and pulled it out forcefully. Whoosh! The tree veins connected to the heart were torn apart. Suddenly, all the activity of the tree stopped. However, the human-faced heart in his hand did not die. It seemed to want to say something. Chapter 1528. Outside the tree trunk, Count, who was separated from the tree trunk in the form of a blood dog, was lying on the ground. There was a faint wailing sound coming from the dog's mouth. His body was full of penetrated curse wounds, and there were finger-like tree roots remaining in his body. Count could only lick his wounds to reduce the pain as much as possible, even to the point that his whole body was about to be peeled off from the nurse's arm. It was necessary to find a better carrier for Count. Compared to Count, Sally's condition was even worse. When Han Dong was cutting the tree trunk, she almost did everything she could to protect him. Even if she used her own body to block, she would not let Han Dong get hurt. The half-human half-goat Sally's body was full of puncture wounds, and her whole body was emitting corrosive curse black gas. The worst injury was on the goat's abdomen. Her abdomen was cut open and was barely stitched up with tentacles. There were even a few broken small intestines hanging out of her body through the gap. Purple blood flowed all over the ground, but there was no sign of stopping the bleeding. Due to the level suppression, the black goat's self-healing speed could not heal such a serious injury, not to mention the corrosive curse was still corroding her body. A long-lost and direct sense of death was approaching Sally. Just as her vision gradually became blurred, a familiar figure stepped out of the tree trunk and came to her. There seemed to be something in his hand. Even if Sally was reduced to such a state, and was constantly coughing blood due to the punctured throat, she still squeezed out a sentence. I couldn't completely block it, 6 of them slipped through. Against this kind of plant attribute opponent, Miss Helen will definitely do a better job than me. You did a better job than anyone else. Hurry and eat this thing. In her extremely blurred vision, she could barely see a slightly pulsing black mass. Although the smell was disgusting, there was a smell that made Sally feel more comfortable. Curse. As a black goat, she was born with the curse, but she was restricted in this game. Since it was something Han Dong handed over, Sally did not doubt and immediately ate it. As the black blobs were gradually eaten up, the crooked trees rooted in the courtyard withered at a speed visible to the naked eye and scattered with the wind. Sally also received the relevant system prompt. Consumable item, cursed tree heart has been consumed. Effects are as follows: normal effect. Dispels all cursed effects, restores HP and increases maximum HP by 20%. Special effect. Increased affinity with curses. Sally's HP was slowly recovering. As his vision gradually cleared, he found that Han Dong was squatting at the side, slowly withdrawing Count's blood essence back into his body. For a period of time, Count had to stay in his body to recuperate and was unable to participate in the battle. Sally licked the leftover liquid from the heart at the corner of her mouth, as if she still wanted more. Nicholas, what did you feed me? The heart of this strange tree. I've read the relevant information about the heart beforehand. It's most suitable for you to consume it. How interesting! When I go back, I must store this experience separately through memory copy. Furthermore, it had been a long time since I had experienced such a sensation of death. If you had been a little slower just now, I might have really died here. Actually, I'm not afraid of death at all. I'm just afraid that I won't be able to stay with you and fulfill Mother's expectations. Don't worry, as long as I'm still alive, everyone will be fine. Han Dong gently stroked Sally's horn and turned to the roots of the crooked tree. At the bottom of the completely dissipated tree, there was a large hole where it once took root. This is. After some investigation, he took out an exquisitely carved wooden key from the deepest part of the tree. Its hardness was no less than metal. You have obtained the key item, the key of wood. You are one step closer to the final goal of the special event. Please note that due to your destruction of the crooked tree, you may be the focus of attention of dangerous existences at a special time. I hope you can successfully complete the event. A friendly reminder came from the organizer, which was the Ladybug organization. If he could win the event, Han Dong's attention would increase again. Sally, try to find the corresponding keyhole in the haunted house. However, I don't think it will continue to correspond to the haunted house. The wooden key should point to a mysterious area that we haven't touched yet. Let's look for it first. Then it's the same as before. I'll take care of the second floor, you take care of the first floor. Okay. After half an hour of rapid searching, they indeed couldn't find the corresponding keyhole. Han Dong and Sally met in front of the window on the second floor and looked at the street covered by the black miasma. It's not that simple. This key is probably closely related to the mysterious neighbor that we saw in the diary. Through the resentment he collected, we can basically confirm that he is the craftsman who made the box of resentment. The wooden key may be able to open the door of his house, or even the secret door that holds the box of resentment. Sally nodded. That should be the case. This key is an item that can only be obtained by killing a strong enemy at level 4. However, would the mysterious neighbor's house really be mixed in with the villa's? What would have happened if one of the teams had chosen his house from the start? Sally, you're right. If I were the organizer of the event, I would never let the participants come in contact with the ultimate puzzle at the beginning. Only by doing it step by step can the fun of the event be reflected. However, the mysterious neighbor's house should also be on the street. Because he needs to go to each house to collect the resentment, and he has to carry out the unification and the creation of the box, He definitely needs a fixed and hidden work and rest area. How can we make it so that no one can't come in contact with his house at the beginning and explore it later? Basement? Or in the sewers of the street? It's possible, but if we encounter participants with strong perception, we may also discover it at the beginning. I have a more likely hypothesis. What? In the previous level of difficulty 5, didn't we hear the mysterious neighbor's footsteps when we hid in the safe house? That is to say, the mysterious neighbor's body will only appear at the highest level of difficulty. Then, is it possible that his house is the same, and when the highest level comes, a unique building will appear on the street? Moreover, the previous level of difficulty 5 was 2 hours apart. It's very likely that the organizer of the event gave us time to explore. Then what's the use of the safe house? The safe house is only used for the exploration stage in the early stage of the event. It provides effective shelter when we can't figure out the situation, so that more participants can survive and increase the success rate and fun of the event. Otherwise, most of the participants will die at the beginning, and the event won't be very interesting. During the pre-entry period, I have already memorized the thumbnail of the street. I just need to wait until the highest level of difficulty to verify my conjecture. Okay. Chapter 1529. Inside the safe house covered with talismans and burning white candles, Han Dong quietly waited for the change in difficulty. Count was resting on his arm, and his consciousness was in a dormant state. Nicholas, I have a question. In this special Destiny journey, can we buy bloodlines or some additional abilities through the game event channel or the store? When we return to the original world, can we take these abilities with us? In theory, yes. For example, I learned the Floating Corpse Internal Sutra in the last game, and its related effects were perfectly integrated with my body, and it can be upgraded with me. However, this game is a bit strange, but it should be able to be taken away. Even if it can't be taken away, it can be improved in other aspects. It's amazing. There is no training process, but you can obtain new abilities and even change the nature of your body. The Destiny system is a masterpiece created by the Black Tower. One of the most important characteristics is equivalent exchange. As long as you work hard and achieve your goal in the Destiny journey, at the end of the game, your experience during the event will be converted into EXP. You can skip the training process and get level up and corresponding abilities. Even if Sally's growth system is not Destiny, you can still get the corresponding abilities or items as rewards. The specific details will depend on the final settlement. At that time, there will be various rewards for you to choose. Good. I have just become a myth, and I need to fill in and understand various aspects. If possible, I also want to take this opportunity to experience a bloodline different from the Black Mountain Goat. It will be very interesting. Sally didn't look like she had just brushed shoulders with death. She was looking forward to her growth in the game and hoped to take this opportunity to experience a new growth system. While chatting, beep beep beep, the bracelet's alarm sounded again. Han Dong suppressed his nervous and excited mood and quietly waited for the arrival of the highest difficulty. Because we destroyed the crooked tree used to collect resentment, according to the notification, the mysterious neighbor will pay special attention to us. Once exposed, we will be continuously hunted down. Our next actions must be hidden as much as possible. Once discovered, the priority is to return to the safe house. Sally nodded and didn't speak anymore. When the countdown ended, tap tap tap, the familiar sound of leather shoes sounded again. Through the direction and volume of the sound, Han Dong could basically imagine the other party's route in the haunted house. The mysterious neighbor passed through the hallway and living room on the first floor and went to the courtyard to check out the situation. When the other party stepped onto the second floor and kept approaching the safe house, Han Dong and Sally couldn't help but pressed their chests to soothe this uncomfortable feeling. This level of danger was far greater than the crooked tree they had dealt with before. There was almost no chance of winning in a head-on confrontation. When he stepped into the attic, the talismans pasted in the safe house were becoming dim, and they were slowly falling one by one. However, this rate of falling did not affect the thousands of talismans pasted all over the safe house. Stop. Han Dong hurriedly took a step back and leaned against the deepest part of the safe house with Sally. Judging from the last footsteps, the mysterious neighbor was standing right outside the door, just one door away. Boom! The whole haunted house was shaking. A clear and huge footprint was imprinted on the wooden door through the concave shape. The other party's heavy kick caused nearly 100 talismans to fall to the ground, and more than 10 candles to be extinguished. The situation in front of him made Han Dong's scalp tingle. If this continued, the safe house would be completely destroyed, and the two people hiding inside would have nowhere to run. Boom! Boom! 2 more consecutive kicks. More than half of the talismans had been used up, and only 9 candles were left burning. Wisps of black miasma were trying to invade the safe house. At this critical moment, the kicking stopped. The sound of the leather shoes was slowly fading away. The mysterious neighbor gave up on kicking the door and left directly. Perhaps it was because he was not sure if there was anyone inside the door, so he gave up after failing to kick it open 3 times in a row. Or perhaps there was something more important happening on the other side of the street that he needed to rush over to deal with. As the sound of the leather shoes faded away, Han Dong also sighed in relief. We have to find an undamaged safe house. We can't hide here anymore. Moreover, during the follow-up exploration, if we are discovered, we have to completely shake off the other party and hide in the safe house. If the other party finds out where we are hiding, he only needs to launch a series of attacks to completely destroy the safe house. Sally just nodded. She was also quite frightened and had already made up her mind to fight to the death. When the sound of the leather shoes completely faded away, creak, Han Dong gently pushed open the wooden door that had 3 shoe prints on it. The attic scene in front of him stunned Han Dong. Under the condition of number of ladybugs equals 5, the attic's floor and walls had skin shedding. It revealed the real material of the building, a kind of constantly wriggling black meat wall structure that was even covered with black blood vessels that could extract resentment. The residents who had died here were also wrapped in the black meat, constantly extracting their resentment. When they saw 2 living people walking out of the safe house, a woman with a long chin and blood flowing out of her eyes frantically broke free from the shackles of the black meat, trying to kill the 2 people as her substitute. Let's go. Han Dong held Sally's hand and quickly ran to the attic window. If they made too much noise, it would definitely attract the mysterious neighbor, who had just left. Unexpectedly, when they were about to reach the window, the meat wall grew. The attic window, which was not big to begin with, was completely blocked. At the same time, the boy's face was also reflected. A little boy holding a human head was peeled off. The boy's body exuded a strong curse aura. Let's go to the 2nd floor first. They gave up on the broken window and went through the closet to the master bedroom on the 2nd floor. The situation on the 2nd floor was the same. Like the skin peeling off, the entire building showed the original state of a black meat wall. While the evil spirit in the master bedroom was still struggling, the 2 quickly rushed out. However, the entrance of the 2nd floor was already overflowing with water, and a large amount of hair drilled out of the cracks in the floor, trying to entangle and restrict their movement. The corridor was already filled with ball-like heads. There was also a dripping woman floating out of the bathroom and blocking the corridor. Can we only force our way down? Creak. At this moment, the wooden door of the study beside him slowly opened without warning. Han Dong remembered the previous experience and decisively pulled Sally into the study to hide. The black-haired girl in the student uniform deliberately embedded her body in the black meat wall to prevent the meat wall from covering the window, to ensure that the window was big enough for Han Dong and Sally to escape. "Thank you. I will free all of you." Two black figures jumped down from the second floor, escaped the haunted house, and stepped back into the street filled with black miasma. At the highest difficulty, the nature of this street and all the surrounding buildings was revealed. Chapter 1530. Number of ladybugs equals 5. On both sides of the street filled with black miasma. Every villa building showed its proper, original state. Or it was made of black hair. Or it was supported by skin and bones. Or it was made of planks covered with insects and engraved with spells. As Han Dong speculated, although each villa had a different style, the degree of danger was generally similar to ensure fairness in the early stage of the activity. Moreover, each villa had a set of resentment collection systems. No matter which villa was chosen at the beginning, the final goal would point to the mastermind behind the scenes, which was the mysterious neighbor, who used the residents of the entire street to continuously collect the essence of resentment. Currently, Han Dong was searching for a safe house in a modern villa with a swimming pool. There were two reasons for choosing this villa. First, there were no other assassins inside. Second, the overall style leaned toward the blood style, and there were monsters condensed from blood wandering inside, which happened to be suppressed by the dark blood attribute. More importantly, they could also be used as dog food for Count. While he was searching for the safe house, he also absorbed a lot of blood essence and allowed the Count, who was in a deep coma, to wake up in advance. When he turned around, he could also use the Count's sense of smell to locate the hidden location of the safe house. "It's actually here, Count. Not bad." Count, who turned into a blood dog, was digging a piano under the secret door of the safe house. Bloody Hand, who was responsible for playing the piano, had been eaten by Count as a snack. When the floor under the piano was pried open and the secret door was opened, the gentle candlelight also made Han Dong feel relieved. The Count said disdainfully, "That's right. TSK, this area is full of blood, this Count's home ground. If we chose here from the beginning, I and the loving Miss Sally wouldn't have been seriously injured. By the way, I can smell a distinctive smell of blood, which is higher than other individuals in both level and concentration. Do you want to take some time to deal with it? Maybe you can find a better carrier for me, or let me get high-quality blood essence to improve my strength. If this Count can exert a stronger power, we can have a better chance of dealing with the mysterious neighbor. Taking a step back, the probability of escaping will also be higher." "Where is it?" "It's the swimming pool outside the door. I suspect that the swimming pool is the equivalent of the crooked tree that we dealt with earlier. It's a collection of resentment in this area. Since the tree from before could drop such a high-quality heart, this swimming pool should also have something good." Miss Sally had completely recovered after devouring the heart, and she had even obtained a certain increase in her abilities. "We are also good at dealing with fresh blood. Dealing with the things in the swimming pool will definitely be easier than dealing with the crooked tree. Let me think about it. After killing the crooked tree, the blue consumable item, cursed tree heart, was indeed a good thing. If he could kill the vengeful spirits in this villa, he should be able to obtain a similar item that leaned toward the blood attribute. If he was lucky, it might even become a new carrier for the Count, making his blood dog form even stronger and more complete. Count's growth is equivalent to Han Dong's growth. However, there were also issues of risk and time involved. Putting aside the fact that the resentment collector was extremely dangerous, even if it was suppressed by the Hellblood, it would not be easily killed. Moreover, if he killed it, it would attract the mysterious neighbor's attention, which would mean that the safe house he had just found would be destroyed again. In addition, the duration of the highest difficulty was only 2 hours. If he was delayed, he would have to wait for another cycle. Han Dong made a decision. Let's do it. At worst, we can find another safe house and wait for the next cycle of difficulty. A blood aggregation like this would be a top-notch existence in the general game. If we want to buy a drop item of the same quality in the shop, we would have to spend at least 100 points. We can't waste this opportunity. Seeing that Han Dong was willing to take the risk to obtain his blood item, Roland felt that it was too dangerous. The Count wanted to pretend to be arrogant, but unfortunately, his tail was raised high and wagging in excitement. Count's location was correct. A different blood egg was rooted at the bottom of the swimming pool. A large number of blood vessels spread from the bottom to different areas of the villa, absorbing the resentment essence of the dead. When Han Dong and the others approached the edge of the swimming pool, a whirlpool appeared. A blood whirlpool quickly formed, and a blood egg that was beating appeared. As if it had smelled an intruder, the blood egg split open from the top like a blossoming flower. A young man with long, dyed red hair was born. His bloodstone-like eyes stared fixedly at Han Dong's right arm. He had never smelled such delicious blood before. The battle was about to begin. On the other side, just as Han Dong was worried about time, a certain team's progress was similar to theirs. When they obtained the key, they also discovered the true secret of this event. The craftsman who created the box of resentment and his workshop only appeared in the highest difficulty. In the street filled with black miasma, the sound of copper coins hitting each other could be heard. The three-man team with different styles was moving forward quietly. The sound of copper coins coming from Dong Ye's body did not attract the attention of evil spirits and ghosts. Instead, it had a dispelling effect. Moreover, under Dong Ye's control, the sound of copper coins would not enter the ears of the mysterious neighbor. As he walked, the handsome man suddenly stopped and turned the folding fan in his arms to his side. This path. Have we seen it before? Dong Yi had a silly smile on his face. He was not very good at memorizing things like this. Moreover, there were many similar paths in the alley that led to the outside world. He really could not distinguish them. Forbidden Words, who had a talisman stuck to her mouth, shook her head slightly, indicating that there was no such path before. It seems that our speculation was correct. Follow me. Just as they were about to step into this path, boom! A loud explosion came from not far away. At the same time, a blood-red beam of light that could penetrate the black miasma rose up. Although it only lasted for a short time, it was enough to attract the attention of the mysterious neighbor. They could faintly hear the sound of heavy leather shoes rushing towards the source of the blood-red light. I didn't expect the lucky dice to be so useful. Let's go. The three of them continued to walk along the unfamiliar path. They did not leave the event area. There was only an old and dilapidated building located here. The folding fan opened. A black Tengu suddenly drilled out and jumped in through the broken window. After confirming that there was no danger, everyone entered the building one after another. They could feel the dense aura of resentment. The target they were searching for was hidden here. At the same time, the source of the explosion and the blood-red light came from Han Dong's direction. The young man who called himself Bloodseeker was limited by the Hellblood. His blood regeneration gradually could not keep up with the destruction of the chainsaw and the crushing of the sheep's hooves. Just as he was about to be killed, his originally broken body returned to a blood egg and self-destructed. Han Dong activated the G-Virus's proliferation characteristic and blocked the incoming explosion damage. Count, hurry up and pick up the things and leave. Self-destructing will definitely attract that guy. Cough, cough, cough. Count separated himself and picked up a strange ruby from the remains of the explosion. Sally forcefully tore Han Dong out of the mass of flesh and quickly fled to the safe house. Chapter 1531. Puff. Han Dong, who was carried on the shoulder, coughed out the blood clot in his throat. His overall condition was slightly better, and at the same time, he regained the right to speak. Sally. We can't hide here. This situation is different from the Japanese-style haunted house. This blood demon is quite smart. He decisively self-destructed when he was sure that he was no match for us. His real purpose was not to kill us directly. He wanted to use the violent explosion to injure us, restrict our movement, and mark us with blood. This kind of self-destruct damage caused by consuming the blood demon's origin, even if he used the hellblood to remove it, it would still take some time. With such a big commotion here and the blood mark, even if we hide in the safe house, we will be discovered. Cough, cough, cough. In short, we need to find a way to escape from here. After I remove the mark, we can hide. Although before the self-destruction, a large amount of unimportant proliferative tissue was grown by the G-virus, the self-destruction blood still splashed on the body. Sally's body was also stained with a few drops. The blood demon injected his consciousness into it before he died. Every drop of self-destruction blood was like a maggot with a strong vitality, trying to drill into the body, completely take root and achieve the mark. If he wanted to remove it, he had to uproot it. Han Dong's body had at least 20 small holes emitting red light and crawling with blood vessels. The smelly blood was constantly emitting, which could be easily detected by the mysterious neighbor. Nicholas, you just need to remove the blood mark on your body. Leave the escape to me. Sally stabilized Han Dong's body and turned to run outside the building. Count, with the ruby in his mouth, followed closely behind. Just as he climbed over the wall, thud! The sheep's hooves landed steadily on the street. Suddenly, the appearance of the characteristics of tentacles swarmed out from the pores and all of them were straightened. His danger perception was instantly maximized. Even Sally, who had the fourth vitality, felt her heart tremble. Because less than 10 meters away, the neighbor in large leather shoes happened to be standing at the door of the blood demon's villa. It was exactly the same as the image in Sally's memory. Only long legs with black trousers and large leather shoes were exposed. Above the belt engraved with the symbol of a ladybug, thick black miasma shrouded. The black miasma was still constantly being produced and spread out, affecting the entire street. Obviously, this person was the source of the black miasma. Due to the restrictions of the game rules, the demonic eye could not see through the upper body of the black miasma. The direct feeling brought by such an image was the fear of the unknown. It was impossible to predict what would come out of the black miasma if they were to fight it. An arm or a weapon. Tentacles or the mouth of the abyss. Other than the fear of the unknown, there was also a deep sense of oppression. The suppressive force was released in a circular manner, far stronger than the image in the memories. If it was an assassin with a weak will, his subjective initiative would be instantly taken away, and he could only wait for death to come. Such a direct exchange of glances made Sally's hair stand on end. Count was also so scared that he clamped his tail tightly and trembled slightly. Main body unsealed, first stage. Sally quickly turned into a half-human, half-goat form and quickly fled on her 4 goat hooves. Although Count had his tail between his legs, his speed was not slow at all as he fled at full speed. Step, step, step. The sound of heavy leather shoes stepping on his heart showed no signs of weakening. After running wildly for a while, Sally looked back. Her eyes immediately showed some fear. The distance between her and her neighbor was not increased at all. The neighbor who chased after her on foot still maintained a distance of 10 meters. No more, no less. No matter how hard she tried, it was useless. Sally had already drunk a bottle of stamina potion bought from the store, but this was not a solution. If this continued, sooner or later her stamina would be exhausted, and once she slowed down, she would inevitably be caught. Han Dong, who was carried on the shoulder, was silent the whole time. He was not only removing the marks but also thinking about a problem. But why didn't he attack? The distance is only 10 meters, and looking at his appearance, he should be able to close the distance with a little burst of power. Why did he deliberately maintain the same distance? Is he enjoying the pleasure of chasing his prey? Or is this a deliberate chase scene set by this event? Judging from the oppressive force that the opponent emits, even if I fully recover and join hands with Sally, we still can't beat him compared to the origin zombie that we could barely deal with before. This guy is almost unbeatable. Now that the time is almost up, I can only make a more risky assumption. Sally asked somewhat anxiously, Nicholas, what should we do? We can't increase the distance at all. How about we go to a villa where there are people, and use other participants as bait to buy time to escape? We can't take such a risk. The killers who can participate in this game are all elites. Once they perceive our intention, they will immediately counterattack or hide in a safe house. The risk is too big. Sally, you continue to run, I will observe. Okay. Sally did not doubt at all, she just continued to run. Just as they were about to pass by a junction, Han Dong compared the overhead view stored in his brain in advance, and immediately found the difference. Sally, turn right into the path. If my guess is correct, this path will only appear in the highest difficulty, and it will most likely lead to the final place, which is the workshop that this guy made the box of resentment. This is the only way, and it should be almost time. Okay. When they turned into the path on the right, they immediately felt that they were slowly separated from the street until they saw the isolated old mansion at the end. Both sides of the path were tightly sealed by the liquid black miasma. There was no way to go. Nicholas, the smell of other teams remains here. It should be the group of people we met before. Count's sense of smell came into play, and he locked on to the broken window on the side of the main door. Oh? Those guys have come in advance? They are indeed very powerful. If they are here, they may be able to distract the neighbors. We will go in from the back. When they went to the back of the mansion, there was an entrance to the basement in the backyard. There was only a very ordinary padlock hanging on it, which was easily broken by Sally's kick. When the team hid in the dusty basement, Han Dong said softly, Time is almost up. I hope the change of difficulty can make this guy disappear temporarily. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The countdown in his brain was on the same time. The highest difficulty had lasted for 2 hours, and the number of ladybugs on the bracelet had increased from 5 to 1. The sound of footsteps suddenly stopped. Even so, everyone still stared at the connection between the basement and the backyard. It was only after 5 minutes that they gradually relaxed. Phew! Sure enough, it was a type of escape design. The neighbor is set as an existence that cannot be resisted, but the activity party will also leave us a way out. I just took the time factor into consideration just now, so I chose to take this risk. We spent more than an hour in the Blood Demon's mansion, and escaped here just in time for the 2 hours. In this way, we can enter the hidden path in the highest difficulty and come here earlier. Otherwise, we will have to wait for another round of reincarnation. Let's take a break. Count, show me your gem. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.